Hey guys, welcome to the Multiply Podcast. We are in studio today with my good friend Peter Boros. Pete, welcome.
Good morning.
It's good to be together again. For our guests that don't know you, you and I have been in ministry together for a long time. Next year, I think it'll be 20 years since we've known each other.
Yeah.
Since '06. And we've both
Wait a
been...
minute, 06 was 20 years ago?
Yeah, we've both been in ministry a long time. We've done a lot of projects together. We're both ordained ministers. We've served in church comitatur, in church boards. We've served on pastoral staff, in pastoral boards. We both were youth pastors for, I think, the bulk of it together. We've served in separate churches. We've put on camps and youth conferences and leadership retreats. We've started in the same church board in Sacramento. We were both on the same board for the West Coast RTO Youth Ministry west of the Mississippi for a bunch of years, and planned and organized, and even all the stuff that we didn't do together, we would always run by one another. You would speak at all my camps and stuff. And so we have quite a bit of history together and quite a bit of ministry experience. And so in today's episode, I just kind of wanted to explore a little bit the idea of, what does behind the scenes ministry really look like?
Yeah.
Because I remember going into ministry, and the way that you view it from the outside is not the way that you view it from the inside.
No, not at all.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you see when you're on the inside that you've speculated about on the outside, that you thought about. Some things that we over spiritualize, and then some things that we don't make them spiritual enough. And so I just kind of wanted to help our listeners gain a better practical, pragmatic understanding of what does ministry, 2 decades in ministry look like. And, they say life is understood for looking backward, right? But it's lived moving forward.
Right.
Right. So life is understood forward, life is lived moving forward, but it's understood backwards. And so now that we're 2 decades in, looking backwards, I think it gives us a lot of hindsight.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so what I want to ask is, all this time in ministry, what are you thankful that you did get right? Let's start off on a positive note.
Okay, positive note. What did I get right out of sheer luck and God's grace and goodness? Lately, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I talk to you about all this kind of stuff all the time. Like you say we've been friends and calling each other for all these years, like for 20 years is like, let me bounce that off of Eddie. Like
Same.
Any idea, sermon ideas, ministry ideas, I'm going to bounce this off Eddie, see what he says,
Pick each other's brains. It's so important to have that in life.
They say, like, when you go through trauma with someone, you form a really close bond. And, we've served on church boards.
Yeah, so we've been through trauma together.
No
question about it.
No question, yeah. It's like tight bond.
Yes.
But in all honesty, like I've lived more years than I'm going to live, which is kind of a crazy thing to say out loud.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, I'm just some guy you're listening to on a podcast. So by all means, consult the Word of God and pray about things. But these are just kind of some things that I've lived through, and I look back and I think about, and I think about like what makes a good leader and what just makes a good son. What makes a good Christian.
Yeah.
And one of the qualifiers, or one of the most important things I could think about, is just being someone who is selfless. You know what I mean? And I think that's a really big reason why so many Eastern Europeans make so many dedicated ministers and good ministers. Like, look at Von Brandt, look at all these different people we grew up around who did all these amazing things with their faith, you know? Look at different denominations, look at Mother Teresa, look at Billy Graham. Look at all these people. Like they're incredibly selfless people.
Right. They did have that thread running through all of their lives.
And something that I grew up with, right? And and I was thinking, it's like, dude, what is it that makes somebody selfless? And sometimes it's the conditions they grew up in, or around.
Absolutely.
And sometimes the conditions aren't ideal. But God has a way of, I think he had a saying the other day that I really liked. He said he makes crooked strings straight.
Yeah, he draws straight lines with cricket sticks.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's
so true, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And he makes something beautiful out of things that weren't necessarily meant to be beautiful in the beginning.
It's not like you had a bunch of training and investment and discipleship before the age of 10 or 15 to train you to be selfless.
Yeah.
No, sometimes there's brokenness that happens in your life that forces you to be selfless because it's a coping mechanism for survival. And that it really fits into ministry really well.
So I think about like, it's not something I strived to do. It's something that it's always just been the conditions that I grew up around.
Yeah.
Like I was thinking about when I grew up, I never really thought about my own emotions and my own feelings. Right. Like I remember growing up and my bedroom was at the end of the hallway upstairs, and my dad would call for me. And if I didn't hear him, it was the end of the world, dude. If he would call me and I was asleep, I'd wake up and it was just the end of the world, So I remember growing up and I wouldn't think about like, hey, I'm going to watch some TV or I'm going to put some headphones on. Like I grew up in this anxiousness of what if dad calls me, and I'd run to the top of the stairs and I'd be like, hey, dad, did you call me? And he'd be like, no. But I was so terrified that he would call me.
Jeez, it sucks, man.
Yeah. But I never really thought about my own emotions. I never thought about like what I like, what I don't like. Like at the center of my life was appeasing my parents.
Right.
And that's like such a common story with just Romanian kids in general and to different varying degrees, right? Like, what was the thing that kept you from doing bad things as a kid growing up Romanian?
Fear.
Fear. Fear and like a fear of like, dude, nu vreau să-mi fac părinții de rușine.
Yeah, I don't want to bring shame on my parents.
I don't want to bring shame on my parents. And I went from that situation to getting married and when I was 20, I had a mortgage, a wife, and a kid.
Yeah.
Like there was no time to be selfish.
Yeah.
Like I just had to work 7 days a week. I just had to provide. I just had to pay a mortgage. I just had to be dad. I just had to be a husband. And the conditions that formed in my life like weren't ideal.
Right.
But God totally used it because when it came to doing ministry work, nothing was beneath me. Nothing was like, in my opinion, that's not really my calling,
Yeah.
So when churches asked me to do anything, it was on board.
What do you mean by anything? Give me some examples.
One of the first churches I served in any like real capacity was this American church in Portland. And I didn't have any idea of like what I should be doing. Like any kind of like I should only be at the pulpit or I should only do this or I need to be respected or I need to get paid. I was just, hey, I'm on board. I'm a Christian now. I'm helping this church. Whatever they need, I'm going to do it.
And this is that mentality. This is one of the things you got right.
This is one of the things I got right. And in hindsight is like the best thing I got right.
Yeah. Because somebody listening to this might think, well, that's because, you had this like terrible experience as a child. So that's why, you had that. Okay, but that doesn't make it wrong mentality, though. It's the right mentality to have a servant heart.
Yeah.
Now, you had it out of brokenness, but God redeemed brokenness and made it into something wonderful.
Yeah. And when I look back, it's like an attribute that I'm glad I had.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I never let myself get in the way with it. Like if you look at Christian people and you see them and their walk's not fulfilling and they're worried about 10 million different things and they're just not getting it right, it's because at the center of their life, they're at the center of it.
Yes.
And you can't do that and do Christianity and ministry successfully.
No, the beginning of following Jesus begins with the denial of self, right?
If you lose your life, you'll find it.
That's it.
And if you try to find your own life, you're going to lose it. And like the most beautiful experiences came out of it. Like that American church is like, hey, we need someone to clean up. I was a deacon at that church. A toilet would flood. I would go downstairs and then I would come back upstairs and watch and keep my eyes on the homeless people at the back of the audience, because it was in the hood, So
you were an ordained minister at that point, a deacon.
I was a deacon,
and
I also picked up the cigarette butts.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But like in our Armenian churches, an ordained minister to clean a clog in a toilet.
Yeah.
Those two things don't typically go hand in hand. But biblically speaking, no, an ordained minister, you're supposed to be there as a servant to everybody.
But I guess what I'm trying to say is it opened me up to every different kind of ministry.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't like, I'm only doing this and this is in my job description.
I'm only called to preach.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm only called to be on stage with a mic in my hand.
Exactly.
You know what one of my favorite quotes is that I heard from Fred Garman maybe 10, 15 years ago. I heard it from him. And I don't know where he got it from, but he goes, if you're too big to serve, you're too small to lead.
Yeah.
That's so good.
But doing that, I got to see every aspect of church. Okay, so when I would do everything I was asked to do, like I got to see all the different facets of how church worked. You know, it was like a learning experience, a spiritual experience. Like I remember watching those homeless people in the back of the church, and I remember these people would come in. It was the first time I ever saw like a demon manifest. Like I remember I'd sit back there, and you know, you got that zeal of being a brand new Christian, because I was like a brand new Christian, man. And I remember just praying over these people and praying that God would just keep them peaceful through the service, that they wouldn't act up. And I remember this lady turn around and look at me, and I saw her face manifest. And I was like, if I was just arrogant and I just wanted to sit up front where the pastors sit and all that, like I would have missed out on all those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being a part of absolutely everything. So I was thankful for that. And like the opposite side of that, you hear stories in ministry. Like I was just talking to a couple the other day, and they were telling me about this church where this new pastor came to serve in place of another pastor. And the old pastor would do home visits, hospital visits, and visit his congregation. And this new pastor comes in to serve at this church. And the congregation's like, well, Sister so-and-so is sick. Can you go visit them? And the pastor goes, the church doesn't give me a stipend for fuel, so I won't be doing any visitations.
That's the craziest thing I ever heard.
Yeah, but they're at the center of their Christian walk. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's about them. And you could be that way and be saved. I'm not saying you're not saved. I'm not saying
Right.
you don't love Jesus, but it's just not going to work out really well.
No,
Like you
it's not.
have to really divorce yourself of yourself to faithfully serve and get any results.
Yeah.
You know? And it doesn't work just in ministry. It works just as being a Christian. You know, we just came back from my father-in-law's funeral, right? And he's got 7 kids, and they're all destroyed that this man passed away, and he was such a strong dad, and they all loved him so much. And I really kind of just dissect his life.
Yeah.
No real education, didn't get everything 100% right, but he just dedicated his life to supplying every need for his family.
Yeah.
He was just selfless.
Yeah.
Like if I look at his strongest attribute, he was selfless.
Yeah.
Like-
His life wasn't about like, you know, football
No.
or about like
the
you know,
man had
hanging
no
out with the
hobbies.
boys. Yeah.
He didn't have a car collection.
Yeah.
He didn't have anything. He didn't even have a car when he came home off the road. Like he just served his family selflessly for 30 years.
Yeah.
And his family looks back at his life like, man, what a great dad.
Yeah.
Like this is like a real big thing. Like
It's huge.
yeah, it's a real big thing. The other things that I'm really glad that I had in the beginning
Yeah.
was growing up in a Romanian church, you're given an opportunity to minister.
Yeah.
Like me and you talk about this all the time, you know, like where else does a 15-year-old get to touch a pulpit and talk to the congregation on a rotation? Like every young man has an opportunity to give an exhortation, to read a scripture, to
Right.
do something. And sometimes it backfires.
Right. It's got its pros and its cons.
It's got its pros and its cons, right? But it's what a great teaching tool.
Yeah.
To be able as a young man to go up in front of a church and work out those emotions and those feelings and those fears and learn on the job.
Yeah.
Like it's an amazing opportunity.
The Western model is we have professional preachers that
Yeah.
do pulpit ministry, and then the rest of the congregation is we just attend.
Yeah.
You know, what I like about the Eastern model is I remember growing up, whenever it was prayer, like in the smaller churches, or if your church was really small, if it was prayer, and at the beginning of service, at the end of service, the pastor regularly every week would call out names at random, like, all right, Peter Boros and Sister so-and-so, please close the service in prayer.
Yeah.
And you'd have to pray out loud and the whole congregation would
Yes.
listen.
Yeah.
And it's like, part of it is, I hate that, man. You don't know what I'm going through right now. I don't feel like praying. But the other part of it was, yeah, sometimes when you're going through stuff, you need to pray because something happened.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if you're on your best day or your worst day. And then also the ability to be able to formulate your prayer and say it out loud and to get over that threshold of like being afraid. Even those little things like that, you know, in hindsight, it's like, man, that's so valuable that we did that.
Yeah.
And then all of the indemnity, we call them exhortations in the prayer.
Yeah.
That was the stepping stone into being able to formulate and articulate your faith and encourage the brothers and share. And then you'd have other brothers come around you. Super valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being a young man and coming up with an indemned, and like, you don't even know, like, at what point do I do an altar call?
Right.
It's like you're coming up with all these different ideas. Like, no, dude, it's supposed to be 3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
2-3 minutes, and then go into prayer. And you're like, dude, how am I going to overcomplicate this? And then where sometimes it's not that beneficial is like, you'll be asked to do something on the spot.
Yes.
And then, you know, you're trying to come up into ministry and you have no reputation. And the only thing worse than no reputation is a bad reputation. Right. And it's like, all right, I'm not prepared. This is going to suck. Yeah. Everyone's going to think I'm terrible, you know?
Yeah. I feel like it has its pros and its cons. And if it's done right, it can be really, really good.
Yeah.
Like whenever we would do at youth nights, whenever we would do exhortations and we'd have new people, you know, kind of trying them out and so on, I would always explain them what an exhortation is. You start off with scripture, right? It's 3 to 5 minutes.
Yeah.
At the end, you repeat, here's how you lead people into prayer, and give them some sort of training, give them a week. So if we would do it ahead of time and prepared, I feel like we would get a lot better results, you know? Sometimes it's good just on the fly, just because it's not, because that's life. Yeah. Life is just on the fly, you know? But the bad way to do it is sometimes due to laziness, sometimes due to humanity, sometimes due to not wanting to be organized or a lack of intentionality, which our churches struggle with that. That's for sure. They would just say, well, you just have to be ready in season and out of season. Well, how come you can't just schedule with me?
Yeah.
How come I have to be ready? Oh, you just don't want to organize and plan ahead. Got it.
Yeah.
You know, and then that ends up creating, like, you might ask somebody to pray who's living in open sin and isn't a Christian. Well, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's happened before. Like, I've been in the congregation where somebody was asked to pray and I'm like, that guy should not be praying because I know that he doesn't even believe in God. He just attends for the culture and the community. Like, he verbalizes, I don't believe in God. You know, so there's a right way and a wrong way to approach it, I think.
Yeah. And we're both Romanian, so we know what it's like. Like, hey, can you preach when? This morning.
Right.
In an hour.
Yeah.
Just say something from the heart. It's okay.
Yeah. Now if it's, because we also know, you know, as being ministers that have scheduled people, we also know what it's like when you schedule them 2 weeks in advance and they cancel on you that morning. And you're like, dude, I want to like lay hands on you in a non-spiritual way, you know, like
we're having pizza night tonight.
Yeah. So, you know, if somebody's canceled on your pastor, you know, stand in the gap. Now, pastors, if you're organizing people last minute because you're just disorganized, that's on you. You got to fix that, you know? And so we've been on both sides of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, I'm willing to stand in the gap. If you're in a hard place, man, I'm going to come alongside of you.
Yeah.
If you're in a hard place because you're being lazy continually, you know what, dude? You got this one.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's the right approach. I think there's anything wrong with that. So it's funny how that is, man. But such is ministry.
Yeah.
So some of the things you got right, you know, I completely agree. Where it's like, man, having the way that I grew up was, you know, my parents loved me, but I was a middle child. Joe came. I was second to last.
Yeah.
So Joe came, you know my whole family very well. Joe came 7 years after me. So I was the baby for 7 years and then I wasn't anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and then the distance between me and my oldest brother is another 7 years, but they were all really close. Daniel, John, and Franco. So there's a year between them and then 2 years between the next two. So I was kind of this middle child on a wide gap of an island. So I always grew up wanting my parents' approval and always feeling like I wasn't being as valued as I should have been.
Yeah.
You know, and so I would work really hard to gain their value. Well, you know, that's not healthy. You know what I mean? It's not healthy to sit there and always feel like you're not valued and so on. But the Lord used that crooked stick to draw straight lines because it really drove me into finding my value in Christ.
Yeah.
And so it just made me want to serve, and it flowed out of that. Yeah, it's so cool seeing how God takes even traumatic situations, even hard situations, even poor decisions. And he goes, I can use that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so for even, for our listeners, if you are in a traumatic situation right now, if you're in a hard situation right now, even this God can use.
All of it.
Yeah.
He can make he can make something absolutely beautiful out of it.
Yeah.
Another thing, like no expectations, right? If I look back at all the terrible things that kind of happened in ministry, whenever I started thinking about, I'm worth more than this. I deserve more than this. I deserve more respect. I deserve a position. I deserve ordination. Right. And dude, that always led to terrible outcomes.
Always.
Yeah. Always.
Yeah. Entitlement. Always.
Yeah. But just being selfless and just being for the cause of the church.
Yeah.
Man, it usually works out pretty well. And will there be people who take advantage of that? Absolutely. Mm-hmm. But God can still even turn that into something great.
Yeah, yeah. Like people will see your servant heart and they'll want to manipulate that.
Yeah.
They'll want to take advantage of it and go, oh, well, then they'll want to guilt you into ministry and stuff like that. Yeah. And even in those situations, God can use them.
And the thing is, the good things you'll see out of it, you don't always get to see at the beginning.
Right.
Yeah. Sometimes you'll hear about it years down the road. Like, hey, dude, you're a real encouragement to me. The way you did this, the way you did that. It's like, man, I wish you would have told me then because I was really I was in the thick of it. You know?
I really needed this right then.
Yeah, right then.
I feel like for every one person that tells you, there's 10 that didn't.
Yeah.
And we won't find out till we get to heaven.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, the whole servant thing, how many experiences, I love that you were talking about like being in the back of the room with the homeless and all of that. And seeing all these different experiences, man, how many experiences would you and I have missed out on if we weren't willing to just do whatever it took? Like some of my favorite memories is setting up chairs and tables by myself with the Lord because I couldn't do much. I wasn't preaching at the time. It was the beginning of my faith. But I would sit there and I remember I didn't want anybody to think that I was a psycho, about like how perfect I wanted everything in the room.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I would we'd set up the tables and the chairs and it'd be like, all right, cool, let's all leave. And I would be like the last one to leave. Then I'd go back inside by myself.
And what everybody else messed up.
And I'd fix everything. But I remember so many times I would be sitting there, man, with like tears streaming down my face in such joy because of the verse where it says, do everything as unto the Lord.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, God, I get to set this up for you. I get to move chairs for you. Like for Jesus, I get to do this. I'd be honored to set up the banquet room in Trump's new ballroom.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I got to do that. I would boast about it. I would tell people, dude, you know where I was yesterday?
Yeah.
Right? But for Jesus, we don't see it that way. And so for me, I saw it that way. And it gave me so much joy and so many awesome experiences that I got to have in serving in the hurt and serving in the menial things. Like it was some of the best experiences. Sometimes I still think back to setting up tables and chairs, and it brings me a lot of joy.
Yeah. It was fulfilling.
Yeah. It really was.
About being there for the pastor, the very first time I preached at that American church, no heads up, no nothing. Pastor calls me up to the stage while he's up there, and he's like, hey, dude, I'm sick, and I need to go to the bathroom right now. Take over. Terrified.
Yeah,
and I go into a sermon out of nothing. Like,
nice.
Just being the dude in the back, like the usher, straight to the pulpit, and it turned out somehow.
That's awesome,
but it was like talk about being there. Like
you were sweating, I bet. Dude.
Oh my God, dude.
This is back when you would carry a handkerchief.
Yes. That was like a super charismatic church. I was also a catcher.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
It's funny, man, how you see like your theology develop over the years and stuff, And it's like, man, I could have gone down so many streams.
Oh, man.
I'm so glad to have from experiences like I think a fairly balanced, both of us have a really balanced Christianity where we're not cessationists, where we don't believe in the works of the Holy Spirit because we can't deny what we've experienced.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're also not so experiential that we deny the authority of the word.
Yeah.
Or go outside of the confines of the word. And I think it's a good balance between the two. At least we strive for it.
I strive for it. Like I'm a Pentecostal, I believe all the gifts of the spirits and manifestations of the Holy Spirit, but I'm not goofy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the best way to say it.
I've learned to discern like, hey, dude, I don't think you're wicked. I don't think you're bad, but that's just emotion.
Yeah.
You know?
And it can easily become that.
Yeah.
And it does a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we talked about, what are some things that we're thankful that we got right? Some things that we're thankful that we had in ministry, right? What in hindsight do you wish you understood that you didn't at the time? Looking back, what do you wish that young Peter understood at the time?
Okay. So now I have adult kids. I'm older and I see things different, and I wish I would understood back then. When you're going up to the pulpit and you're worried about like doing good and the church enjoying it, like I wish I would understood that the audience is filled with mostly loving parents, and they're actually just excited and happy to hear you preach, and they don't care about how good or bad you do.
Yeah.
But
They're on
like,
your team.
Yeah. You know, like oh man, look at this young man. Like some of them are thinking, I wish my kid was more like this young man who's
Right.
at the pulpit right now. And I always thought everybody was just out to get me, but they weren't out to get me. Most of them were probably happy for me. You know what I mean? And they weren't being as critical or as judgmental as I thought they were being, because I could only see that now because I'm not that way. Like
Right.
when you see a young person get up at the pulpit now, it's like, hey, this is adorable.
Yeah. And you're like, dude, that's great.
This is great, dude. Like let's see what you have to say. Let's see the perspective of a 19-year-old, you know? Let's see what's going on in their brain. Like I wish I knew that. It would have taken a lot of pressure off.
Oh yeah. For the most part, if not everybody, almost everybody for sure. You're not trying to win them over.
Yeah.
You've already won them because you're getting up.
Yeah.
They're already on your team.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's true. It's true. I didn't even think about that. That makes a lot of sense, man.
Yeah, man. Because now I look at it as a dad, right? Like if I saw Franklin get up there, you think I'd be critical of his theology? No, I'd be like, dude, these kids up there, you know? I can't wait to see what he says, you know? I wonder what he's going to screw up, you know?
So nervous. Yeah. I remember making that mistake.
Right? Yeah. But it's people are for you.
Yeah.
Like they want you to succeed. Another thing that I know that I misunderstood and I got wrong. This is a kind of a big one. When I first started ministry, I thought if it wasn't for me, it wouldn't work because I was doing so much, you know? You're looking at me like you want me to clarify that.
Yeah. What do you mean?
Okay. When I started ministry, I would have this mindset where, and now that I look back at it, it's kind of funny, right? Like, I'm just going to serve at the detriment of my family, and I'll just trust that God will take care of my family. But I won't trust that he'll take care of his own bride, and I'll just overly sacrifice myself to take care of it.
Yeah.
You know, because if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it. And if I don't do it, no one else is going to do it right.
That's so wild.
And just like over dedicate myself to it to the detriment of my own family. Right. And I know I talked to you about this a lot. Like, you know, what is 1 Timothy 5:8, right? If I don't take care of my own household, I've dishonored the gospel and I'm worse off than a pagan.
Yeah. Worse than an unbeliever. Yeah.
Than an unbeliever. And I was incredibly guilty of that for years. Like my family was last and ministry was always number one. And great ministry came out of it. And
right.
God's redeemed it. And my family, in spite of those bad decisions, they're excellent.
Right.
Like they grew up with great memories of church and ministry and all that. My marriage is great. My family's great. But
amazing family. Yeah.
I wish I would have spent more time with them. And that's kind of weird, right? Because we're talking about being ministers and being dedicated. But I really, when I would give time to the church, I thought I was giving my own time. Like, oh, Peter, can you serve in this capacity? Of course.
Yeah.
Whatever question it was, if someone needed to do something, I was the first one to sign up and do it. And I was like, I'll sacrifice my time and give my time. But what I didn't really realize at that time is I'm not giving you my time. I'm giving you Peter's time. I'm giving you Isaac's time. And I'm giving you Dominica's time. I'm not even asking their permission. I'm taking it from them and giving it to the church. And it wasn't mine to take from them.
Right.
Like, that's a regret of mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I wish I would have realized that. Like, hey, I'm replaceable. I could leave here now and church will continue on just fine without me.
Yes.
Like, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to carry it. I don't have to invent everything. I don't have to be at every work day at church.
Right.
I could go to my kid's soccer game, you know? That was a huge regret. Like, I wish I would have done that differently.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And, you know, looking back, hindsight's always 20/20, right? And so it's so funny how, like, being, you know, everybody has their own baggage, their own brokenness, their own experiences, you know, some more, some less. I wonder if let's say you scaled back from ministry,
Right.
right? If you scaled back from ministry, would you still be the same man that you are today? Like, because you know how ministry has a way of holding you accountable as well?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
And in the broken state I needed accountability.
right.
Yeah.
Because if it was today, Peter, 20 years ago, I think, naturally,
Yeah.
everything would have been better.
Yeah.
But today, Peter wasn't 20 years ago, Peter, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, like, as ministers would travel through Sacramento, one thing that I always wanted to do is find like 2 minutes to ask them a question. And I always ask them the same question. You know, the question I would ask them is I'd say, do you have any regrets in being in ministry?
Yeah.
And every single one of them that had a regret had the same regret. And they would say, I neglected my family
Neglecting my family.
for the sake of vocational ministry. So that's definitely a real thing. And it happens all the time. But, you know, for the people who are listening that are in ministry that are young, because I know there's some young pastors that listen to this podcast, don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
You know, for those of you that have made that mistake, that doesn't mean that automatically your family is going to be terrible. No, God can redeem that.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Like your family's awesome. Like your boys are much older than mine, you know, because we had them a little bit later on in life. And I've told you and Domini this, you know, before as well. But dude, like you guys are role models for Simida and I in raising our boys. Like I want my boys to be like your boys when they grow up.
I appreciate that.
I want to have the same successes, you know. Those
Yeah.
are huge successes that you have with your kids.
If you could wave a magic wand and say, can you go over and do it over again? Would you do it over again?
Great question.
Yeah. I'm telling you, my biggest regret is neglecting my family for the sake of ministry. I fully believe God redeemed it
Right.
because of my life where it's at. Like, I was sitting and thinking about this. My sons are well on their way to being better men than I am.
That's the success of every parent. I mean, that's it, right? My dad says to me, I call him and he goes, you know my dad very well.
Yeah.
I call him and he goes, I said, what are you doing? And he goes, I'm just getting out of the house. I'm trying to be quiet because Joe's going upstairs to go pray in the morning.
Oh, man, as
Right?
a dad, dude.
Right?
Dude, I feel that as a dad, dude. My son's going upstairs to pray, so I'm going to be quiet, dude.
So I go, oh, that's great. And he goes, yeah. And I could see that there's regret in his voice. And I was like, what's up, Dad? This is like maybe 3-4 months ago.
yeah.
And I go, what's up? And he goes, I should pray more.
Yeah.
You know, my son's praying more than I am. And I was
Yeah.
like, Dad, I said, celebrate. I said, you've accomplished what every parent wants, that their kids are better than they are.
Better than they are, dude. And so if you're asking me if I can go back and change anything,
Yeah.
dog, I would not change it. Nothing.
Yeah,
Not
as
the
hard as it was.
Not the childhood trauma, I'm so smitten with the way my life is right now. My wife is my best friend.
Yeah.
My sons are better than I am. Like, I'd go through it another 100 times.
Yeah.
And like, I'd be terrified to change anything in the formula
Yeah.
because God was faithful. And I think a lot of it's from being selfless.
Yeah.
Like he saw the intentions of my heart and he's like, I'll take care of you on the backside, you
Yeah.
know? And he's good. He's big enough to do that. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
No, so we know, you and me, we know that if you have good parents, like, okay, me and you are trying to be good parents.
Yeah.
Your kids, obviously, God is going to bless my labor in investing in my kids
Yeah.
and raise them well. There has to be a return for the work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the same time, there are people who grow up in broken homes and with bad parents or you know, really horrible experiences. And it's like, well, then I'm not going to have the same results. No, you still can.
Yeah.
Because God can redeem it and he can use
yeah.
broken things to make beautiful things. And that's just like the wonderful thing about God, where it's like, man, it doesn't matter what your history is. If you make your life, if you give up your life, then you find it.
Then you find it.
I mean, that's really it.
And if you really look at it, I had no business being a dad or a husband, right? So if I would have not done ministry and just focused on those two things, I would have messed them up.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
But I did the only thing I knew to do, is be selfless and serve. So instead of me trying to teach them lessons out of my own understanding, they just always saw mom and dad making the hard, right decisions and serving regardless of the call and the cost.
Yeah.
No matter what it cost, we always did it. And that's what they saw. They didn't take into consideration the things I said. They just said, they looked at mom and dad and they saw them serving.
Yeah.
And that's why they're Christians today.
Yeah.
You know, like, thank God that was the situation, because it actually worked out better than if I would have tried to teach them out of what I had, because what I had wasn't a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
That's so wild, because it's like neglecting your family, right? In the sense of like being always available to the church and taking that time from your family, right?
Yeah.
The mentality a lot of times that people have is, you know what, God, I'll take care of the church. You take care of my family.
Yeah.
Right. I've heard of that in the Romanian community a lot.
Don't worry.
Yeah. And it's like, that's not how it works. But God in his grace
Still made it work.
Yeah. Like
absolutely.
That's so crazy. That's totally not the goal ever.
No, don't do it.
No.
Yeah.
No, there are so many. I mean, you and I were both youth pastors for many years.
Yeah.
How many pastors' kids? I mean, what was the running stigma about pastors' kids?
Yeah, terrible.
Yeah, they're the worst ones.
Yeah, the worst kids around. Oh, it's PK.
Yeah, exactly. So the thing is, don't think that, in Peter's scenario that, okay, so I'm going to replicate that. That's not the conclusion that happens.
Yeah.
Most times it's not, but what's great is, in humility and in pursuit of the Lord and in surrendering your life, God does redeem it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I wish I would have known that better. Like, yeah. I wish I would have realized that, hey, God's completely capable of taking care of his own bride. Like,
yeah.
It's not dependent on me.
Yeah.
Like, he could figure this out without me.
Right? Jesus says to Peter, you are Peter, on this rock I will build my church.
Yeah.
And it's like, I will build my church. So he builds it, it's his. It doesn't depend on me. But, when you're young in your faith, like, I remember thinking the same thing where it's like, well, God, if I don't do it, then I know that who's going to step up? That guy? Nobody else is going to step up. So I got to do it.
I have to do it.
Yeah.
I got to take one for the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have the mentality of like, God's asking me to do it. God wants me to do it. So it doesn't matter if it takes my life. And it's like, did God ask you to do it? Or did somebody else put pressure on you to do it?
Okay, that leads me into something too.
Yeah.
Right? When I was in the world, I made all kinds of terrible decisions. Like I was going to get a trophy for it. Okay. So I assumed that now that I'm a Christian and I'm filled with the Holy Spirit and I'm a son now, every decision I'm going to make is right.
Nice.
Right?
You learned quickly that was not right.
I'm a Christian. This is a good thing. God surely wants me to do this. I'm going to do this.
So you're saved. There's an opportunity. So that means automatically you have to say yes.
You could err in doing the good thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, I wish I would have known that. Like, hey, I could say no to things. Like, hey, maybe that small church is a small church for a reason, and I shouldn't go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, like sometimes we're like, you know what? I'm just praying that God intervenes in this person's hard situation and that he frees them from it. How do you know that it's not God that allowed him to get into that hard situation because he's trying to draw something out of that person to teach him a lesson?
Yeah.
I'm not going to intervene. I'm going to pray, God, I don't know what your will is.
Yeah, so I guess what I'm trying to say is he'll let you still make wrong decisions even when you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Even though in your mind is like, this surely must be the right thing to do because it's for church.
Right.
It could still be the wrong thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I remember the sermon that you preached that stuck with me for a long time and still does about that Bible story where the man had come before the Lord and he said, God, if you give me victory, the first thing that comes out of my house, I'll sacrifice to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like he offers up his daughter.
Yeah.
Basically, because his daughter comes out to greet him and like, now I have to sacrifice my daughter. Well, God never asked you to do that.
Right.
You just got yourself in hot water for no reason.
Yeah. All the time where it happens often where we're like, God, I'm going to make this sacrifice for you. And I feel like the Lord's in heaven going, I never asked you to.
I didn't ask you to do that. Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah. That's 100% you.
Yep. Yeah. One of the things in hindsight that I wish that I understood is not to fall into the trap of pedestaling people or like demonizing people. Like, I think it's so easy, especially like as young ministers, to put people into categories. Like, oh, this is Pastor so-and-so. He's a complete saint. It's the Apostle Paul that's visiting our church.
Yeah.
And then getting into ministry and, becoming a minister and traveling and spending time with these people. They say you never want to meet your heroes.
Oh, yeah. That's really true.
It's really true. Yeah. So I'd spend time with them and I'd be like, oh, you're just like a regular person. You're just everybody's just a regular person. Or people that, I remember I would be so judgmental about in my like early years. I'd be like, no, these people, they, God can't use them. And then you spend time with them and you're like, no, they're just people and we just view things differently. And I can kind of see the point that they're making,
Yeah.
you know?
For me, it was even worse because I had dad issues. So every pastor that would come to my life, he was like a father figure to me. Like he could do no wrong. And then, like you said, you get to know him. You join the church board. You start seeing the inner workings of everything. It's like, oh God, these people are they're just as bad as I am.
Right.
Know? Some of them might be worse than I am. You know.
No, it's like in every job where you sit there and you feel like you're a fraud and everybody else is a professional. And then you start working with them and you're like, oh, these people are dumber than I am. like you read the job application for the requirements for the job and you're like, dude, I barely qualify. But then you start seeing your coworkers and you're like, nah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, I'm okay.
Like when you join the church board and you first get to your first board meeting and you're thinking to yourself, revival's coming, dude.
Yeah.
We're changing things. We're going
That's
to pray things into existence. And then you go to like a 6-hour marathon board meeting and all you covered is what kind of paper towel you're going to use and whether you're going to, decide to buy new iPads for the worship team. And there's like nothing spiritual about it. It's just like business.
Yeah. And you spent several hours discussing it.
Yeah. And you're going to do it again next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, are we going to loan out the church equipment or do we not loan out the church equipment to people who want to borrow it?
But what about the pastoral board? Do we get to borrow it?
Right. Okay, let's vote on it. Okay,
Yeah.
hey, at least I know we spent 2 hours on this, but at least it's done. No, you're going to do it again next month.
Yeah.
And you're going to vote on the same thing 9 times for some reason.
What's the honorarium going to be?
Oh boy.
It's like the most devastating spiritual thing I've ever done in my own walk. It takes like there's like a very spiritual thing. It's like, no, it's like
very
a business
administrative.
meeting. Yeah, it's administrative.
Yeah. Most of it typically is, sometimes the pastoral board will, right? Like we would withdraw and talk about heavier things, but it's pretty rare. Yeah.
The heavier things is like how to discipline someone. What are we going to do about this headache? I don't know.
Yeah. No, I remember.
So the takeaway is don't join the church board.
I actually enjoyed being in the church board.
I hate it.
I know you did.
Yeah, I hated it. Like a dog hates a leash. I hated it.
Yeah. Jay and I, because Jay was in the church board with us for multiple years, and Jay and I would carpool because we lived right next to each other. So every church board meeting, we would carpool together, get there, sit through the whole meeting, and then on the way home, we'd hit up Carl's Jr. and then go sit down in my living room and like debrief about the meeting and stuff, And I actually really enjoyed this part of the board meeting because I enjoyed one the ability to actually get some stuff done, like as far as administrative stuff goes, and even because it wasn't just administrative, like we would also discuss like, what's a theme we want to preach on each month or something like that, and then sometimes the administrative things roll into the spiritual things, like, hey, brother so-and-so is getting offended by this, well, let's modify this or whatever. But it also, the other part that I really enjoyed was the study of people. Like I just really enjoy studying people. And so sitting there and going, oh, wow, okay, he's approaching it this way. That's interesting. I didn't think about it that way, And even though they would be 4 or 5 hours long sometimes, most times 3 at least.
Yeah.
When
they make the call for pizza, it's you're done.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I always had a good time with it. Most everybody I know hates board meetings.
Yeah.
But it was just my own little nerding out about it that I enjoyed. But I wish that's something that I understood, that, man, Brother Krini Shoro Stefan says this all the time. He goes to his congregation, he goes, pray for your pastors. We're just people.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, hey, we have mortgages, we have bills, we have work problems.
Yeah,
like
flare-ups.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we lose our temper sometimes. We have regrets. We have bad days. Yeah, for real, and we're just people.
Yeah.
We're just like you,
Yeah. All of us, just like you, will eventually see Christ at the end and realize what we should look like.
Yeah.
Like we're all going to have that epiphany.
That's exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I really wish I would have learned that early on. And don't get me wrong, there are spiritual leaders and mentors that are role models. There are people that I know in my life that I'm like, man, I want to be more like this guy, And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think we should have role models in life, but not to pedestal them so high to put them into the position of like junior messiah.
Right.
You know, like, oh, you know, Pastor so-and-so is coming. Let's pack the church so there's no room because God's going to show up. And it's
Yeah.
like, no, he's just a guy, man.
He's just a
You
guy,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. So,
The other thing, probably last thing I'll say about that is when someone is a problem or a burden to you, you got to realize they're also a Christian. They're also going through their thing, and their motives are probably in their head right.
right.
Yeah. Like that person telling your wife to wear batik, they're probably not wicked.
No,
In their mind, they're genuinely trying to do something that's right for them.
Right.
Like you have to put that in your mind, like see things through their shoes, like through their eyes. Like, hey, they're honestly trying to be good people and help you. It just might be misguided.
yeah.
You know?
And in the context of their worldview, what they're saying isn't offensive. But when it transfers from their context into my context, it's offensive.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I have to hear what they said in their context,
Yeah.
not in mine.
Where's it coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. A phrase that I heard was, and it's helped me out so much in leadership and in relationships. It's, you know, don't listen to people's words, listen to their hearts. So if you can hear where the heart is behind the words, you're not going to get hung up on the technicality of, well, what do you mean you always? I don't always do this. And it's like, well, he didn't actually mean every single time in your entire life,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah. So, no, those are some things that in hindsight, I wish I would have known as well. But, yeah, you know, you grow. There are things today that I don't know that I hope in 10 years from now I can look back and go, dude, I wish Eddie 10 years ago would have known this. It's okay that I don't. So there's things that you don't know, and it's okay that you don't.
Yeah.
You know, but those are some things that I think both of us can reflect on. What do you wish you had when you started out as a youth leader, Pete? As a Christian, as somebody in ministry. That's a long list.
An understanding of the Bible.
Hey, that's really real.
Yeah. How to study any kind of tools, right? Like in our community, like you become a Christian and you speak English and Romanian and you're thrust into a leadership position.
That's it.
Yeah. No discipleship, no oversight, nothing. And you could just completely do horrible run amok things.
Right.
Yeah. And I wish I had some guidance.
Yeah.
I wish I had some mentorship.
That's my biggest one, man.
Yeah.
I wish I had someone to disciple me.
Someone to say, hey, that's a bad idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just somebody they didn't have to be 30 years older than me.
Yeah.
Just somebody who was 100 feet up the road from me that could say, hey, you ever go hiking like with your kids and stuff?
Yeah.
And you're going first and you go, hey, watch out over here. That's a loose rock.
Yeah.
I just needed somebody to be a couple of spaces in front of me
Don't
to be like,
fall in that hole.
yeah, hey, watch out for that.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. To stay in my own lane, I wish I would have known that, you know, like when I started out, like, hey, that's not my problem. I don't need to worry about it. You know?
Yeah.
The church vision, the church, like the way they're going to accomplish things. Like I've been called to just take care of these young people. I'll just take care of these young people.
That's it.
Yeah. And, I wish I understood that more. Like in youth ministry, the most important thing is just to spend time with the youth.
Yeah.
Just to be available for them.
Yeah.
Just to hang out with them. And that's where discipleship takes place. And you try to come up with all these like different ministry ideas. Like it's really simple. Just spend time with them. Just be there for them. Listen.
And I mean, that's really it, is just loving and spending time with them. And then out of that flows the relationship. You know,
Yeah.
I remember like when I first started out, it's funny, some things I wish I had when I started out back then, I'm glad I didn't have.
Yeah.
You know, like in my head back then, it was like, you know what? If I just had like really good sermon structure, and it's like, dude, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it does, but it really doesn't to the younger generation who's probably not even listening to you preach anyways.
Yeah.
But they care if you care about them,
100%. And they know it.
and they can smell
They
it.
can smell it.
Yeah.
If you're genuine.
Mhm.
Yeah. If you're real, if you actually
Yeah.
care about them.
Yeah, I wish I had some greater clarity and structure as to what my job is, and I mean what my job really is.
Yeah.
Because you get told what your job is, but then there's what your job really is. And here's how you can differentiate between the two. If what you're told to do when you do it, it doesn't make any impact on whoever told you what your job is, then that's not really what you're supposed to be doing. If you're doing something that you weren't told if you're not doing something because nobody ever told you should be doing it, but you get yelled at, that's what you're really supposed to be doing. You know what I mean? And so like, I really, like in my early years, I wish I understood what the job was, but at the same time, like, man, how can you know without going through it?
Yeah.
You can't. So it's like, don't beat yourself up over it, One thing I wish I had starting out, a salary.
Hey, trust me, when you get one from the church, it's still not enough.
I remember somebody had made a suggestion because people don't understand, man, like
the sacrifice.
Yeah, like we would joke around about it all the time, you and I, about like, boy, I sure hope I can get to a place in my life where I can work for free. Because the amount of money that I was spending per month on pizza and taking young people out to dinner and taking them out to lunch and coffee meetings, because all of my time I would spend, meeting with people one-on-one. Like I had shut down my my architecture firm and I was working 40 hours a week meeting with young people, really investing in them. Well, every time you go out with a 15, 17-year-old kid, they don't have money.
No.
And you're not going to have them pay. So you would just pay, or I'd have people over my house and I would just pay for pizza all the time. I was $1,000 in the hole every month, like 500 to $1,000 without question. And I was like, man, if I could just not come out of my own pocket and just break even, I would be so happy.
Yeah.
Paid. It wasn't even, And I remember a brother in the comité said, hey, man, I see you're having all these different meetings and stuff. I want to suggest to the comité, to the church board, that we put aside a stipend of like $500 a month just for you to use for all of your meetings. And I said, please don't. Because the church culture at the time, I told him this. He goes, why not? And I go, the amount of expectations that are going to come attached to that $500 are going to far outweigh the money.
Yeah.
Because people are going to be like, well, you're paid by the church. You're supposed to be here at every service early and leave late and clean up the whole and be the janitor. And it's like, dude, I'm already spending 40 hours a week, every single week meeting with people. I can't give you more, And so
you're going to sell your soul for that $500. Sister so-and-so forgot her purse in the sanctuary. Call Eddie. He's got a salary.
Yeah, he's paid by the church. That mentality was so upside down.
Keep it.
Yeah. And so I don't even know if the board would have approved it, but I told the guy, I said, please don't bring it up.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I would rather just come out of my pocket and do it for ministry's sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I did that for 15 years. You know what I mean? That's a long time to be doing that. Never once paid by the church. Never once salaried. Never. Yeah. Not once in 20 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, at the end of the day, that's not obviously why we did it. We didn't get into ministry for the money. That's for sure.
No. Money, respect.
There's a lot of hardship.
Appreciation.
So there's a lot of hardship in ministry. And yet at the same time, it's like looking back, not looking above, but looking below.
Yeah.
Like looking at the people that, the Lord gave us the joy and the privilege of ministering to. Like, man, I look at the people that my wife and I have discipled over the years. It's such a joy.
Yeah.
It's such a treasure.
Yeah, absolutely. Like me and Dominic just celebrated 25 years of marriage, and
25,
dude.
Old man Boros, 25 years of marriage.
Yeah. and we look back at it, it's like we look through pictures and talk about stories from different churches we served at and different mission trips we went on. I was like, dude, we have had a full life.
Oh yeah.
Like there's still more to happen, but it's like, man, we have done so many different things. We've been involved in so many different things. Like my Saturdays used to be fixing a Shamu, the school bus,
Shamu,
take the kids out to the next youth conference. And like, there is all these different experiences, just going hiking with them, going camping with them, hanging out with them, doing discipleship at our house, different services, like youth conferences, like there were so many different things that took place. And it's like, man, it was awesome.
Yeah. My wife and I talk about this often where we're like, if we were to die today, we have already lived more than other people live in 10 lifetimes.
Yeah.
Like we've had so many experiences, high highs, low lows, great victories, hard struggles. I wouldn't trade it for anything.
No.
No, it's like having kids. Like, is life harder after you have kids? Yes.
Yes.
Are the rewards higher? Yes.
Yeah.
Like you're very much invested at much higher stakes, but the rewards are also so much better. Like it gives worth to living.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And I wouldn't change my journey in ministry for anything. Hardship, struggles, and all. I wouldn't change it for anything. I think it's been a wonderful experience that's formed me into who I am. To a young man or a woman or a young woman going into vocational ministry, what advice would you give them at the start of the road? These are some questions that I've formulated over the last couple of days, or yesterday actually. A bunch of them, I put them together. What advice would you give them at the start of the road? Some advice that I would give to a young man or a young woman at the start of the road is please understand that you are not the only one that God is speaking to.
Oh, man.
And now is not the only time that God spoke.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like when Jesus became real in your life, he also became real in the lives of everyone else in church. So now that you're here, the savior of the church, who you're praying and you feel like God's telling you to do certain things, everybody else has to listen. It's like, no, you have to listen.
Yeah.
You're praying and you're hearing from God, and you have to be fully submissive to what it is that God's saying to you. If God's not saying that to everybody else, he's not saying that to everybody else.
Yeah, to young people going into vocational ministry, I talk to you about this all the time. Like, we live next to Lee University, and there's a university full of kids going into college, getting into debt to do a job that, I don't know if you realize, there's no money in it.
Right.
And there's a bunch of people like me and Eddie who are already doing it for free. So
yeah.
I talk to a lot of these students, like they've never actually been in ministry, but they've decided to go to college and pursue it, and they've never actually done it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of crazy to me. Like, you could just go do it for free right now. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with getting qualified and getting educated and figuring out how to, put together sermons and going through Old Testament, New Testament and doing all that stuff. That's great. But like, you should put your hands to it for a little while, see if it fits.
Yeah, 100%. How many people go through theology school that by the time they're out of it, they realize this isn't for me?
Yeah.
And that's a huge waste. Also, I would rather have somebody who has zeal and capacity and humility, and that I'm willing to work with, that doesn't have an education, than somebody who a lot of times is educated but has no experience
And is proud.
That's exactly
Yeah.
it. Because then I got to deal with all of that.
Yeah.
And it's like I have to help them unlearn what they've learned, not theologically. That's good, but the learning that comes in your own head, where it's like, well, like, I'll give you an example. When I was in theology school, you would be able to smell out. I would think of you all the time, dude, when I was in this one specific class. And I'd be like, man, if Pete was here, we would be chuckling about this. But you would be able to smell out immediately people's opinions about, they would share like an opinion about theology and how to practically apply it. You'd be able to tell immediately who's in ministry and who's not. I would just sit there and I'd be like, you have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, you don't know how it really is.
Yeah, well, you're just going to go there, and you're going to tell your board, and then, they're going to do it because it's the right thing to do. And like, oh, you have no idea how any of this works. Got it. You've never done ministry a day in your life. Yeah, it's so important to have that real world experience.
Yeah, but before you take a bite of a college loan for it,
right?
Right. I was like, you're going to be paying this off for 30 years, dude. Yeah. With interest.
Chris Oniga is such a good example of this because, okay, I went to school and I did my undergraduate studies and stuff in Sacramento. And then eventually I finished my graduate degree, my master's here at seminary. Chris Oniga is such a good example of this. He's so well read, and he retains all of the stuff that he's reading, and he's always educating himself on it.
Oh, good for him.
Yeah. No, it's really excellent. Like, he reads like the early church fathers and, all of that kind of stuff. And I went and I got my degree at school, but a lot of times Chris will say things and I'll be like, man, you're better, like, you understand better this thing than I did, and I'm formally educated on it.
Yeah.
And I'll sit there and he'll say things and it'll bring it back up in my mind, and then we'll discuss it. But I feel like sometimes, dude, like, I'm just catching up to him, and he didn't go to formal training and, do all of that. Like, I think we put thresholds on our own selves. We're like, well, I'm not formally educated, so I don't know. And it's like, no, dude, you can know just fine.
Yeah. like I don't preach from a place of any education whatsoever. What I know of the Bible, I know it's worked for me in my life, and I'm just old enough now to where I can say and give examples
Yeah.
and illustrations, like practical illustrations, like, hey, this is how this worked out for me.
But that's what makes the impact in people's life.
It makes it applicable and makes it real and tangible.
Yeah.
Like I could just preach theory, but you could just preach theory, but you could also say, hey, dude, this is what really worked. This is what it looked like. I'm standing in front of you. This is how it is.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. No, and like the two sides that couple together, it's like you have to have a good theological understanding so you're not preaching heresy. But if you have a good theological understanding and no practical understanding, then who cares? That's like I have the right medicine and no way to apply it.
Yeah.
No way to give it to somebody.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like you need both sides, but I feel like sometimes the enemy will beat us up about like not having a formal education, and so we'll pull back. And then there's other people where you and I know this, we've experienced this many times, that have degrees and they hide behind their degrees.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about. I don't care about your degree. Like, I'm certain that you have no idea what you're talking about. And sure enough, they'll be wrong. And you're like, well, you know, when we studied this at blah, blah, blah. And you're like, dude, why do you have to drop your college name every time to qualify your statement? Stop it already, you know?
Dude, I qualify everything with how big of an idiot I am. It's like, dude, I'm a high school dropout. Don't have any expectations. If anything good comes out of this, it's surely just the Lord.
I had a guy say something to me once, and I'm always trying to learn, right? And he uses a word I didn't know. And I was like, what does that word mean? You know, I haven't heard it. And he says to me, he goes, oh, sorry, I've just been doing my graduate degree. And it really expands your vocabulary. I didn't even realize I had, you know, like, I was like, okay, dude, you know, go fly a kite, buddy. Like, relax.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't know, dude. Like, I have a pretty basic mentality of those who can do.
Yeah.
You know, and those who can't teach.
Yeah. And those who can't teach PE.
I always heard it. Those who can't teach become engineers.
Being someone who has worked with a lot of engineers, there's some truth in that.
There's some truth to it. You can't do it. You can't teach it. So you became an engineer.
Just a glorified calculator. Anyways, to all of our engineers, we love you guys. I've had some good engineers. I've had some bad engineers.
Yeah.
AI's coming for you.
What do you mean you want me to curl behind here and put a perfect weld where you can't even look at it only with a mirror? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Let's go for it, engineer.
You know what's something, I kind of skipped over this earlier, but you know what's something I'm really glad I didn't have starting out? Too much authority.
Oh, yeah.
Man, I'm really glad I didn't have too much authority.
I remember when I was a young youth leader, I was like, why don't these old people understand that we know the right way? You know, what's wrong with these people? Like, we need to change X, Y, and Z. Everything needs to be my way. Now I'm older. I look back and I was like, dude,
thank God.
Thank God. Thank God you didn't listen to me. Right? In hindsight, you look at it as like, dude, I had no idea what I wanted. I didn't understand why people didn't value the opinion of young people, because the young people are here today and gone tomorrow. They're like, hey, let's implement this, and then they're gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you have to get proven over time. Like, I remember, you know, just through all of my travels and stuff, I would meet with young ministers all over the country, and they would lament to me all the time.
Yeah.
The same laments, you know, where it's like, well, you know, my pastor doesn't give me vision. I'm not educated. There's no salary. There's, you know, I have no direction. The church just needs to change this. If the comitet gave me a clear vision, then I could do my job. And I remember explaining to him this simple thing, and I would explain this all over the country, because it was the same issue coming up, where I would go, look, man, all of these issues, I said, let's lay them out. And I would write them out, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, like 10, 12. And he's like, all right, now I got it all out. Sorry, it's all negative, whatever. Okay, we'd look at it, and I'd go, look, and I go, all of these things, let's say you're not wrong about any of them. Let's say all of these things you're right 100%, and that all of these things are missing. And I go, do you think that God was unaware that you were missing these things when he called you into ministry?
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, okay, so knowing that in spite of this, he still called you, do you think he called you to failure? It's like, well, no. Okay, then. So then there has to be a way where you can succeed. Now, I don't think all of these are correct. I think some of these things you're going to look back and go, yeah, I'm glad I don't have this. I'm glad I don't have that, you know?
Yeah.
But the number one way that the enemy marginalizes people out of ministry is he has them self-marginalize themselves by creating a threshold list of things that they think that they need in ministry to be able to accept God's calling. But they know that the Lord's burdening them for it. And they're like, well, I can't because I don't have this.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, God's not unaware of that.
that, and you think you have all these opinions of the way things should be done, but you neglect the fact that it's still the bride of Christ. Like, he's in control of his church.
Right.
You think he gave you all these amazing ideas how to fix church, but he just didn't have the ability to put you in charge?
Yeah.
You're not in charge for a reason.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to be in charge.
That's exactly it. I
So
mean,
at this point, they're just your opinions.
yeah. Hey, what a silly thought. It's like, I know. I mean, think about how silly and arrogant that is. It's like God gave me a clear understanding of what needs to change in this church. There's 300 people there, and you think you're the only one that God gave that to?
Yeah.
You know, not the senior pastor who he's allowed to be the senior pastor, not the senior pastor who the church has voted in to be the senior pastor.
Who also takes the responsibility for everything that goes wrong and right.
Right.
He's on the hook for everything.
Not all the other ordained ministers who have decades of ministerial experience in that church and another one. You know, God's only speaking to you and not to anybody else. There's such an arrogance in that thought.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so glad that, you know, whenever I did have more of that kind of thinking, that I didn't have a ton of authority to exercise
You
it.
didn't have enough leash to hang yourself with it.
Yeah, that's so well put, man. I didn't have enough leash to hang myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thankful that I wasn't ordained straight to pastor. I'm thankful that I wasn't put into the comitet right in the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm thankful that I had some years to cut my teeth, to figure out what to do and what not to do.
Yeah.
I mean, making a critical mistake with a couple of young people, you know, they forgive you, they forget, you know, you work through it. Making a mistake on that level with an entire church, dude, that's really hard.
Yeah. It's also like being ordained too hastefully is kind of what we're talking about,
Yeah.
right? I used to look at the qualifications for like a minister in the Bible, right? For an overseer, for a deacon, and you look at it like you have to be this tall to ride.
Right.
You know, like
Nice. That's a good way to
it's
put it.
like if you're not like this, you're not good enough to do it.
Right.
But a couple of years ago, something had happened, and a friend of a friend was not from the pulpit, but a minister in some capacity in a church. Okay. This guy had also been divorced and has kids and had a history of substance abuse, but he was still entrusted with this not pulpit ministry in this church. He got terribly depressed and ended up taking his own life.
Oh, wow.
Okay, terrible story, right? We're
Yeah.
having fun. I'm harsh and the mellow here.
That got dark real quick.
It got real dark real quick. Something I realized about the qualifications of ministry and being a minister, I always thought it's like you have to be this good to do it. And I started looking at it a completely different way. It's not that you just shouldn't hastily be put in that position and that your wife and kids have to be, you know, right, and that you have to have a good rapport with everybody. I always thought it was like you have to qualify to do it. And now I think about it completely different after I heard that story. That's there to protect you. You
Right.
understand?
Yeah.
Like,
That makes a lot of sense.
If your marriage isn't right, if your relationship with your kids isn't right, if your relationship with the church isn't right, if you and yourself are not right, the cost of ministry is so high, it could potentially destroy you.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That's there as a safety, not for the church necessarily. It's there for you.
That's definitely the other side of the coin, man.
It's the other side of the coin. It's like, hey, if I've got all this turmoil in my life and now I'm trying to do this ministerial job in this church and these things aren't right, ministry is not going to just magically make them go away. They're all going to get amplified and the enemy is going to use them to my detriment.
100%.
Yeah.
Your life is under more attack spiritually if you step into ordained ministry
100%.
because you're a target now.
Yeah.
So if you have places where the enemy can attack you,
Yeah.
where is he going to hit you?
Yeah, if you got sin in that closet, it's going to come out. It's going to destroy you after you've put all this effort into ministry. Or if you didn't take time to cultivate a strong marriage between you and your wife, and you know that qualification's lacking, and now you're in the limelight ministry, dude, that's going to come up behind you and bite you.
It's going to get
The
tested.
qualifications to be a minister and to be in ministries aren't there to keep people away. It's there to protect people. You know what I mean?
And I think to some degree,
It's both.
it's both,
Yeah, it's
right?
both, but I just see it differently now.
Yeah,
It's like,
no,
hey,
but I
that's there to
agree.
guard me. It's there so I'm not destroyed.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
completely true, man.
Yeah.
Completely true. I never thought of it that way. That makes perfect sense though. Because I remember being on a mission trip with Charity Cup, right? This is years and years ago. It was 2006, and I was in Kondrica, in the Republic of Moldova, with my girlfriend at the time, Simida. who is my wife
Like,
now.
man, does your wife know?
I hope so.
Yeah.
And we're sitting on the steps that go up to the chapel. And at the time, I was really interested in her, and she was interested in me, and we were in this courting phase before I proposed to her. And I wasn't sure, you're trying to figure out, am I going to marry this girl or not?
Yeah.
And I remember sitting on those steps, and I said, hey, I want to be really clear with you. I go, I know that my life is going to be ministry. I know that. I know that that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. That means that I'll probably never have a ton of money. That means that I'll probably never be driving like brand new fancy cars or God knows what. It means that my children will be under more spiritual attack. It means that my life will be harder. And I go, I want you to understand that that's what you're signing up for if you want to continue down this road with me. And I go, if you think like in your head, well, yeah, we'll kind of do ministry now when we're young, but once the kids come, we're just going to like just be a regular family and, I'll make money and that's it. I go, I'm the wrong guy. Like I'm not going to sit here and fight between my family and the ministry. Either my family is a part of the ministry or not, but I'm not going to separate the two. And I go, so you need to understand, like, if you want to continue down this road with me, that's what it's going to be. And I feel like, having that understanding that, yeah, your life is underneath more scrutiny. You're underneath a lot more spiritual attack. When you look at those qualifications that you've listed, that talks about in 1 Timothy chapter 3, it's like, yeah, those are the places where the enemy attacks people. Where do ministers fall? Their marriage falls apart,
yeah.
right? Their kids are under a lot of attack. Why do PKs have that reputation? Because their kids are under attack all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because dad's bivocational, he's also a pastor. He has no time to spend with them.
Right.
Like he didn't do the cost analysis before the ministry part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
They fall with pride a lot of times, right? Arrogance, pride, stuff like that. Well, you're going to be tested spiritually. Like, okay, building a company is hard. You have to do all of the leadership things of building a company. Building a church is way harder.
It's the hardest thing ever.
It is, because you're building, yes, like a company. You have to build the corporation side of it, meaning the side of, administration and all of that, like 1 Corinthians talks about, and having good order in the church. But you're also in charge of people's spiritual health. You're in charge of community. You're in charge of relationships. And you're under spiritual supernatural attack 24/7.
Yeah.
It's an incredibly difficult job. And after, the devil and demonic forces, they're the number one thing that are oppressing you. The number two thing are the church people. Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, like people in church make it very difficult to do the job. But that's the job. Like, flip the script a little bit. The hardest part, I think, or the part that, not that Jesus struggles, but the part that is the greatest obstacle for Jesus to minister to us is us.
Us. 100%. It's not even the devil.
No.
It's our own
we're the
carnality.
obstacle. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's not like it's the enemy making, resisting God. No, God can do whatever he wants. The devil's nothing compared to him. But it's me that's the obstacle.
Yeah.
And it's like, in following in the same footsteps of Jesus, it's like, yeah, helping the church, the greatest obstacle for us is the enemy, the devil, right? But it's also the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what it means to be like Jesus. It's like, I'm going to love you in spite of you,
Also, like you're talking about this conversation you had with back then was Samita was your girlfriend about this is my vision for my life and this is what you're signing on by, throwing in with me. How many ministers do you know that you say like, man, this guy would be a great minister, but his marriage sucks?
Yeah. How many people have disqualified themselves in that sense, or by not, man, I wish people would understand. They're sitting there and they have something in their life.
Yeah.
Like they're neglecting some area of their life. And they're like, man, I just want to do more for God. And it's like, dude, you don't understand how the two are tied together. If you just handled this part of your life, doors would open.
Well, here's the truth of it. Your wife and your kids know you better than anybody else.
Yeah.
And if you can't convince them about the validity of God's calling in your life, the people who know you best, you have no chance in ministry. So if you can't convince your wife and your kids that this is God's calling in our life as a family and get them behind you, how am I going to win somebody who's lost to my cause?
Yeah.
When the people who know me best don't see it, I can't share the vision with them. I can't make it come together.
Well, the verse in 1 Timothy 3, right, talks about qualifications for overseers. And it, listed, right? If anyone aspires to the office of overseer, he desires a noble task, right? So then verse 2, it says, chapter 3, verse 2, therefore an overseer must be above reproach, the husband of one wife, sober-minded, self-controlled, respectable, hospitable, able to teach, not a drunkard, not violent but gentle, nor quarrelsome, not a lover of money. Verse 4, it says he must manage his own household well, with all dignity, keeping his children submissive. And then this is the only one where it explains why. Yeah. Verse 5, for if someone does not know how to manage his own household, how will he care for God's church?
100%.
If somebody doesn't like that, go take it up with Jesus. That's word for word out of the ESV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, well, dude, that's what the Holy Spirit inspired Paul to write to his disciple Timothy in 1 Timothy 3, chapter 3, verse 5. It's like, dude, at the end of the day, not only in the sense of, like you were saying, not only in the sense of, well, if you can't manage your household, how can you manage the church? But on the flip side of it, it's like, dude, if you're trying to manage the church, the enemy's attacking your family. Make sure you've got that shored up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's the truth of it. Yeah.
And it's for your protection.
It's for your protection. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. To win in ministry and lose your children.
Oh, what a horrible thing, man.
You didn't win anything.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, man, it's like, what wouldn't you give for your own kids? And then you sit there and you think to yourself, man, what did I give for them? Oh, that's rough.
Again, you could err in well-doing.
Yeah, you can err in well-doing. We talked about, some potholes that we've seen young leaders get stuck in, right? The mentality of, I'm the only one that God's speaking to now is the only time that God spoke. I think it's important for people to understand that, like you were saying earlier, it's a saying I used to say to my senior pastor all the time, and I would say it at the comitet meetings all the time. I'd say, well, I go, Pastor, here's my thought process. I go, but at the end of the day, if God wanted Eddie Sprangel to be the senior pastor, he would have made me the senior pastor. But he didn't. He wants you to be the senior pastor. So my job is to support you in your vision for the church.
Yeah.
And I think that just makes a lot of sense.
Potholes too, like you were talking about what would have been nice, obviously a salary, right? I've worked with so many churches now on different facets. Like the money just doesn't exist.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Going into ministry thinking like, I'm going to go to school, I'm going to get educated, I'm going to get a job at a church. Just realize, like, I don't think most people realize what a shoestring budget churches run on.
And they all run that way, man.
They all run that way.
Like there's a small exception of like mega churches.
Yeah.
There's no middle class. There's the top 1% churches and then the rest of them.
Which are like 30 people.
Yeah.
30 to 100 people. And the pastor doesn't even get a salary. Or maybe just the pastor and the janitor gets a salary. Like it just, hey dude, it doesn't exist.
Right.
Yeah, it's not there. So go into this knowing that you're probably going to do it pro bono.
Yeah. Oh yeah. 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 I would advise young people definitely go to school and get a trade.
Yes.
Go to school.
Yeah.
And get a trade. Get licensure. Look, I'll give advice to young people that might be listening to this, that are kind of at that fork in the road, or maybe, you're in early 20s or whatever. Do not fall into the trap of thinking that, I'm just going to do ministry and then God's going to take care of everything else.
Yeah, that's presumption.
Yeah. The reality is like in the mission field, there are 10,000 low-skill volunteers.
Yeah.
Another one isn't going to help.
Yeah.
Like, that's what I would advise young people all the time, even in the past. Go to school, get a licensure. Don't get, some generic degree in communications or, a generic business degree or something like that. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm just saying it's going to open up less doors for you. Get a licensure. Go become a licensed respiratory therapist, a licensed registered nurse.
Yeah.
And RN, my wife's an RN.
My son's an RN.
Your son's an RN. Yeah. My Simida and I's adopted daughter, her little sister Felicia's an RN. Her other sister Ruth is an RN. Here's the cool thing about being an RN. There are so many different types of jobs that you can do. And people are like, well, I don't want to see blood. You can be an RN that works for a law firm. All you see is paperwork. You be a case manager like my wife is. She never sees blood. She used to be a wound nurse before. Now she's a case manager.
Yeah.
It's just paperwork. But the point is it opens up a ton more doors. And even in ministry, you can do a lot more stuff. And you're not reliant on some shoestring budget. And then a wife comes or a husband. And then kids come. And then a house and mortgage and bills. And now you're painted into a corner.
Yeah. Now you can't correct the people in your ministry because it's going to cut into your bottom line.
Yeah. Now you can't go back to school because there's just no time for it.
There's no time for it.
Yeah. So no, I advise people, dude, go get licensure, go, get a career. And here's the thing, if ministry takes off to where you can quit your job, great.
Yeah, great. And if it fails in a few years, you got something to fall back on. Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely go to school.
Yeah.
Absolutely either go to school or, learn a trade, do construction, do parquet, do something, but do something where you can rely financially on, not on the ministry, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah. Be smart.
Yeah.
The contractor in me wants to tell you to just keep going to college for these things, though.
Why is that, Pete?
Why? Because now contractors make doctor money. That's why. Because everyone went for a degree that makes no money, and just on this side of it is like, this is great.
Yeah, there's so much money in trades, and it's only getting better over the next 2 decades.
It's only getting better. It's like, you know what, dude? You should go get that music degree because I'm going to need a laborer in a few years when you're done with school. I need someone to push a wheelbarrow, dude. Why don't you come over here, worship leader?
and we have friends of ours that have doctorates. They learned other languages. And they're doing trade work.
They're doing trade work.
Because they can't make any money with their doctorates.
Yeah. They're working for a high school dropout. Irony.
It's like that quote that George W. Bush had at Harvard. And he goes, to all of you A students, it was at the graduation ceremony. He goes, all of you A students, congratulations. And he goes, to all of you C students, well, you can still become president.
Yeah. But there is something about just going to school for something tangible. Like my son Peter went to Lee, became a nurse, graduated, immediately got married, got into a job immediately.
Right.
With bonuses, and he's living his married life. Like he's not having to figure things out for another 10 years.
Yep. Yep.
And it's great.
Yeah, no, it's really good advice. And if you go to like a fast track program like respiratory therapy, dude, everybody in SoCal was a respiratory therapist growing up.
Yeah,
your wife's an RT, and
everyone else her age.
Yeah, everyone else her age. It's a great career to get into.
Yeah,
something that I advise people now, and I did in the past, and I'm going to advise my kids as they grow up. Get into something that you have connections in. Like if everybody in your community is becoming nurses, go become a nurse. Why? Because you're going to know 46 different nurses that can recommend you for a job. You will climb the ladder way faster from company to company if you have connections in 6 different hospitals.
Yeah.
It's just common sense.
I joke with my son Isaac at work all the time. I own a construction company. My son Isaac works with me. And we'll be doing some harebrained thing. Like I'll be balancing between 2 trusses and putting some blocks in, holding them in the air, balancing one truss, nailing it with another hand while I'm holding on to another one that's barely hanging in the air. And I was like, let's see AI take this, Isaac. Let's see AI take this. I don't see it, dude. Like I think we're safe.
Yeah.
Carrying in 100 4x12 pieces of sheetrock. It's like, dude, no one's ever going to replace us.
Nope.
This is it. We're in, dude. We're locked in for life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And there isn't an army of people in the trades coming up behind you that can take jobs. There's nobody. There's
everyone you talk to. Like right now, if you want to be a contractor, you just have to answer your phone.
That's really it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not do drugs.
Yeah.
Just that's the qualifier.
That's eliminated, 80% of people in construction and trades. Being in the field and in trades, you meet a lot of people that are drug addicts.
Well, none of us are here because we wanted to. Like, we're all dropouts and have checkered past.
What's the Romanian joke? I don't like school, so I'm digging ditches now.
I'm digging ditches, right? If you can't finish school, you can finish concrete.
Like concrete finishers are kind of famous for it too.
Carpet layers.
Yeah, carpet layers.
Yeah.
Though it's funny because
brother, why are you sweating so bad? Dude? It's freezing outside. This is going a weird direction.
No, because like you and I will pour concrete. And I'll ask you, like, hey, is that one kid, coming to help us finish? And you're like, yeah, I don't know if he's relapsed or not. Let's find out.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horribly sad, but it's such a reoccurring theme where you're like, yeah, that's just, that's why we're here. All right. Yeah. So how would you, kind of coming back on track?
Can we?
Maybe. How would you define ministry? Because I think the definition of the word ministry is a really big deal. I know me and you have talked about this a lot, where people are like, well, I want to be in ministry. And I say, well, what do you mean by that? well, I want to be on salary at a church somewhere. It's like, okay, is that ministry? Is that all of ministry? How would you define ministry, Pete?
Okay. I believe it's James talks about like, if you know the right thing to do and you don't do it, it's a sin unto you.
Yeah.
Okay. I remember when I moved to Cleveland, me and you would hear like, oh, I got my calling and now I'm going to school and I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. And it was like completely foreign to me and you. Like, what do you mean your calling? You know, to me, ministry is ministry for me. I have one thing that's really valuable in my life, and that's my knowledge and the trades.
Okay? I thought you were going to say your friendship with Eddie, but
my
whatever.
Friendship with Eddie. This multiply cup right here.
Yeah, buddy.
But so what's ministry look like to me? Like, it means sacrifice, right? Because if I'm gonna offer something to God, it has to cost me something, right? So what costs me more than anything? Well, what I make my living with, right? So I take my trade. It's the only profitable thing I know to do, right? This is how I sustain my family.
They're financially valuable.
This is financially valuable. If I give you this for free, it's the biggest sacrifice I can give you.
Mm.
So I take that skill completely outside of the church and I give it away for free. And it completely sucks as a financial choice.
Right.
You know, but that's ministry. I know I could help these people. I have the skill set to help these people. And by doing so, I'll be ministering to them and it's going to cost me. It's going to cost me dearly. That's ministry to me. Like, it doesn't have to be in the context of church. Ministry is completely different. There's this sweet lady who's been part of our family since Peter was 3, 20 years, right? She had like a really great testimony on how she came out of a lot of different things. And she doesn't serve in church, but she has an amazing ministry. You know, Don.
Yeah.
She's part of a trauma task force in Portland. When the police, she's on call several times a week. And when the police have the worst situations, like people getting murdered in front of other people, like the worst of the worst, they call her and she goes there and she just sits with and listens to victims.
That's crazy.
While the police on the scene, like body over there, someone going through trauma, she just shows up and she doesn't push the gospel on them, but she's a believer and she just does what she knows is right. That's ministry.
Yeah.
You know, if you're a lawyer and there's someone who needs lawyering work, right?
Yeah.
You give them what's most precious to you. You serve them in that capacity. The idea that ministry happens just within church is like the biggest fallacy. Like that's not, that's where you go get equipped,
right,
to go out and do ministry.
Yeah.
And we've kind of flipped this whole idea on its head. And it's like ministry is in church, like serving in church is ministry. And that is a ministry. But ministry is really supposed to take place outside of church, dude. That's where ministry takes place, dude. My son Peter is he's working with this atheist guy. And this atheist guy keeps prodding him about all these different questions because he's 23, he's married, he lives away from his family, he's already gone through college, he's in his vocation. And this guy's like, he's asking my son, like, so you and your wife, you know, what's going on? You guys been together long? You know, did you guys move in first? Like, no, I'm a Christian, man. So we didn't move in together.
Yeah.
We got married and then moved in together. This is a new thing.
Ah.
And then, you know.
Surprising to you, his friend, I bet.
Yeah, this guy's atheist, he's a middle-aged man, you know. And the guy's like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. I heard your grandfather passed. And he's like, yeah, but, you know, I'm a Christian. And I know he's in a better place, so I'm not really that bummed out about it. And later on, this atheist guy comes to my son and he's like, hey, I'm an atheist and I've met Christians my whole life.
Yep.
And you, a 23-year-old kid, you're like the most accurate representation I've seen up to this point of a Christian. Like, dude, that's ministry.
Dude, how proud are you as a dad of your kid?
I'm bursting, dude. He's telling me and I'm like...
Dude, that's
not
huge.
saying anything, right? But I mean, that's what ministry is. It's not always at the pulpit. It's not always doing something grand. It's not always leading the worship team.
It's like not Billy Graham evangelistical crusades.
No.
It is that too, but it's not just that.
Ministry is like, dude, you're good at a thing. God has given you a talent and an ability to do a certain thing. Go figure out how to use it. And And when you use it, it's going to hurt and it's going to be inconvenient, right? Like, Domini, I have an opportunity to go do this. Can we afford to do it? Not really. Are we going to do it? Yes.
Yes.
Like, it's a sacrifice,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
To leave and give what's most profitable in your life away for free to somebody else for no other reason other than you feel led to do it, and it might reflect Christ to them.
The thing that people would pay you for and do pay you for.
Yeah.
Say, hey, I'm going to do that thing. And even though I know I could get money for this, I'm choosing just to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes it's skill. Sometimes it's hospitality. Sometimes it's care. Sometimes it's, opening your door. Sometimes it's just being a host.
Absolutely.
It could be, sometimes it's just calling somebody who's hurting. You know what I mean? Like caring for them. Like Dawn, go and just sit with people that are in the worst times of their life.
Worst times of their lives.
And it's not like she's showing up to fix it.
No.
She's just showing up to say, hey, I'm going to suffer with you.
Yeah. I'm going to be in that place of affliction with you.
Yeah. I'm going to just, my gift to you is I'm going to suffer alongside of you.
Dude, greater than any sermon anyone could ever preach, dude.
All day, every day.
A mother just lost a child, a child just lost a parent, and you're just there with them.
Yeah. Just holding them.
She didn't go to Bible college.
Yep.
She didn't I heard the calling and this is my calling.
Yeah. Nope.
No, don't pigeonhole yourself into just a calling.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the calling changes throughout the years of your life.
Yes.
You're called to be a son.
Yes.
You're called to be a daughter. And so what you're called to is all 66 books of the Bible.
Yes.
And living them out to the best of your ability every single day. That's ministry. Ministry is not like, hey, I'm going to do that one hard thing on the pulpit and get ready and prepare a sermon. No, ministry is like, I'm going to die to myself every day and be led. And that's just it.
That's really it. Yeah. Let's talk about calling a little bit. And kind of in the context of ministry, you had shared with me before an example about like sonship, about how your son, he doesn't just, like Isaac, he doesn't just look like you at work. Like he doesn't just swing a hammer like you swing a hammer. You had given me an example about how like, he's going to reflect every part of you in every aspect of his life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So like ministry, what it looks like is I'm reflecting my Father.
Yeah.
Like my son reflects me, right? Like he does things the way I do them. He puts his tools away the way I do them. So
just in the house?
Just no, everywhere.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Like their personalities, their sense of humor they're just like me. And I think that's really just kind of it. We have to be just like our Father, dude. We have to love like he did. We have to forgive like he did. We have to be compassionate like he is.
Right.
We have to put ourselves second. Like he did.
Like he did.
And the more you know the Father and the more you grow into a relationship with Christ, like these characteristics start shining through you. And the other thing is taking ownership and doing things. Like one of the biggest issues I see is like as Christianity as a whole, we've just subcontracted everything. Like who takes care of your lawn, Eddie? It looks great. Oh, you have a guy for that. Like you look at a woman, it's like, hey, your nails look amazing. Who does it? Well, I have a lady who does that. But we've all done that with our faith with church. Like I have a friend who doesn't believe in Christ, so I'm going to invite him to church. The worship leader is going to get him all worked up, and then the pastor is going to preach a banger of a message, and this guy's going to get saved. And we just kind of relinquish everything that we're supposed to be doing as sons and daughters to the institution of church.
Yeah, but the responsibility isn't the institution's.
No, it's my responsibility.
It's mine.
I have a calling. I have a commissioning on my life. I have the ministry of reconciliation entrusted into my hands as well as a parishioner of a church. And missions, callings, right? Like, do you go on mission trips? Do you go out? Do you do anything? No, I give to the missions fund. Like my biggest hope for church in general as a missionary is that we would stop subcontracting missions work and spreading the gospel, and we would just start doing it ourselves. Like
I think that's what the Bible tells us to do.
Yeah.
The Great Commission isn't the Great Commission to the institution of the church.
Yeah.
It's to the believer.
It's to the believer. Like, sure, you could give money to a big organization and maybe 17 cents per dollar or 10 cents of a dollar will actually go to the cause.
Let's say 70 goes to the cause.
Yeah.
Even so.
And so much of it can get squandered in overhead, right? And you could build these big machines that are completely inefficient, or your small church could just start looking for needs in its own community, completely outside of the church membership and just seeing to them.
Mm.
Like, what a wild idea.
I heard of a really cool way that a church used their money, and I always wanted to do it with the youth, but I never got to. They had set aside a budget for evangelism, 10 grand, and they're like, how do we make the most out of this $10,000 budget to evangelize our community? And they thought about like different evangelistic crusades and bringing in different people and so on. And then they started thinking outside the box. So what they did was they taught a series of messages about how to like evangelize, about how to share the gospel, about, right? They had done some different like training with their church, and they said, okay, we raised 10 grand set aside, earmarked it for evangelism. So here's what we're going to do. They said, we put 10 grand into envelopes. And in the envelopes, there's some of them have $10, some of them have $50, some of them have $100. And we want everybody in the church to come up and grab an envelope. It doesn't say what amount is in it. When you open it, whatever is in it, if it's $50, you put another 50 alongside of it. If it's 20, you match the amount, and you take that money, $50 of yours, $50 from the church, and you use it to go take somebody out to dinner, to go help somebody, to go do something, to go. So we're going to take the 10 grand and turn it into 20 grand, and we're going to mobilize the church to go out in your own organic way and tell somebody about Jesus.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cool. I was like, yes, that is such a great way to take the money and empower and mobilize the church, not just the subcontracted preachers.
Yeah. And what's worse going to happen? You're going to see no fruit from it? Is it about the fruit, or is it about the obedience?
Ooh.
It's about the obedience.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe I don't get the joy of seeing the fruit of everything that I do, but I know that I was obedient to do it.
The success is in the obedience.
Yeah.
Not in the result.
Yeah. Hey, I was obedient. I heard the call. I deciphered it between all the other thoughts and the, intentions in my mind. And I went out on a limb and I did it, and I was faithful.
Yeah. Because like Paul says in 1 Corinthians, right? Paul planted, Apollos watered, but God gave the growth.
Yeah.
So you might plant today, somebody might water a year later, and God might bring the growth 2 years after that. So just because you didn't see it right when you ministered doesn't mean that it isn't one part of, an investment that's been going on for years in somebody's life.
And like, we all have opinions. Like, we need to be satisfied by the results of things. Like, I don't really need to get anything else. He saved me from hell.
Right.
like if God, just to get things clear, if you're saved and he never does anything for you ever again, he still owes you nothing.
Yeah. And in fact, you still owe him everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, what about living my best life now and being prosperous and, seed time and harvest, and I give money and I get money? It's like, no, dude, you're saved. Like, you already won the lottery.
Yeah, it's funny because people are like, hey, like Romanian, we would always say, Dumnezeu nu se lasă dator la nimeni.
Yeah.
And it's like people would say that, like, oh, it's so good that you're giving in ministry. They would say it to me all the time, God isn't a debtor to anybody. And I'd think to myself, just because I serve the Lord doesn't mean that God owes me.
He owes me nothing.
I could serve him for 10,000 lifetimes and I would still be in debt to him, not the other way around.
100%.
It's like, yeah, God's not a debtor to anyone. That doesn't mean that, hey, so don't worry, God's going to pay you on the back end. What that means is God's done so much for you that he's not a debtor to anybody.
He actually paid me so much 2,000 years ago on the front end.
That's it.
That no one in earth could ever, so can never deserve it.
Everything's good.
Everything's good, yeah. But just be faithful.
Yeah.
Be faithful to the small things, like ministry. Like, I know it happens in church and it's important, and discipleship happens in church, and equipping and going and getting refilled. But like, dude, ministry is really outside of church, man.
Yeah.
It's really outside of church. It's small conversations. It's relationships with people, community, your neighbors, people who are around you, your coworkers. God has placed you in a place for a reason. Those people around you are there, and you just happen to be a Christian.
And it's not either or. Ministry's in church as well, obviously, because we're literally ministers.
Yeah.
But I think that we so often make it only in church.
Yeah.
That we have to understand that no, ministry is the way that I treat my kids. Like, ministry is loving my wife when she's difficult to love, because I do that as a responsibility that I have for a covenant that I made between God and I. Ministry is forgiving people that I probably justifiably shouldn't forgive, but grace says that I need to forgive those people.
Yeah.
I'm doing those things as a response to my relationship with Jesus. Like when people go, oh, I'm thinking about getting into ministry. it's such a weird thought process that's so revealing of our worldview, where it's like,
You mean just being a Christian? You're thinking about being a Christian?
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh, you're thinking of getting into Christianity? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Because, dude, the way that I treat my wife, not selfishly, but selflessly, that comes out of my Christianity.
Yeah.
That's my ministry. So in the same way that I spend time preparing a sermon to preach on a Sunday, and in the same way that I'm exhausted from working all day and I come home and my kids go, Dad, do you want to go and, throw around a ball in the backyard or so on? I'm doing ministry by going, I don't feel like it, but I'm going to crucify my flesh and be there for my kid because he needs me. So I'm going to go through. They're both ministry.
Yeah.
And it's not like ministering to my wife or to my kids or ministering to a congregation, like one is more than the other. The place where they do differentiate is I have a greater responsibility to my wife and my kids than I do to the church.
And all week.
Always.
Yeah. Always.
And so the only place where the two differentiate is that one is more important and is higher up on the priority, and it's not the church. It's my family.
Yeah. No minister ever looks back. It's like, yeah, but I just would have spent less time with my wife and kids. I would have been a better minister.
Yeah.
It's really, I paid too much attention to my kids.
Nobody on their deathbed wishes that they worked more hours of overtime. It's no, absolutely not. So we've talked about defining ministry and how sometimes we get pigeonholed into the idea that vocational ministry is all of ministry, and it's not. Ministry is looking like our Father, and everything that we do before the Lord, we are ministering. I minister to my wife. I minister to my kids. I minister to people in my community. I minister at church. You minister on the job site. You minister through donating, your skilled labor to different projects and so on, right? It comes with a sacrifice. And kind of coupling together with that, ministry, let's talk a little bit about the word calling, because a lot of times, especially with younger people, we'll hear people talking about their specific calling, what is my calling in life? And they're really, essentially, they're trying to find purpose. And it's, it's labeled as calling, like, why am I here? Why am I on earth? Why did God make me? And I feel like calling really falls into two categories. One is the category that we know often, where it's like God has a specific calling on your life. And I do believe that. I do believe that God has specific callings that do change from time to time through different seasons in people's life. At the same time, there's other callings that I choose. I make a decision in my life, and alongside of that decision comes calling from God. And we can look at that because there's general and there's specific calling. But like, for example, when God's, called me for a season in my life to be a preacher and to preach constantly and to travel and preach and all of that, I knew that was a calling that God had on my life, but it's not for the rest of my life. For some people it is. For me, it wasn't,
Likewise.
Yeah. And for a season, God called me to be a youth pastor. And that was for a season in my life. For a season, God called me to be a project manager. God called me to be a project manager of a big construction project. And, to focus on the architectural and the paperwork side on my end. And I did that for a season, but then that season ended. So calling isn't like you have one calling for the rest of your life, preacher, and that's your job title is your calling. That's not how that works. Like, there's seasons of calling.
And when you're done with it, you just retire.
Yeah. From what? Your calling?
Yeah.
But that's how we look at it a lot of times. But then there's other callings that you choose. Like, the best example of it is when I chose to marry my wife, God gave me a calling to be a good, faithful husband to that woman. When my wife and I chose, obviously, we're going to have kids and so on. So we had kids. When I had a kid, automatically I had calling to be a good father. So I have a calling to be a husband. I have a calling to be a father. And those are based on decisions that I made and my wife and I made. And so I feel like we get really shoehorned into, or we pigeonhole ourselves into a simple, very black and white, very rudimentary idea of calling. But that's not how calling works at all. Calling is louder and clearer in some areas. It's softer in others. If something isn't your calling, God can still use it for his glory, even though you served in it. You have callings based on decisions that you make in life. You have callings based on seasons that God's called you in. You have callings sometimes based on opportunities that are presented to you. And so calling and purpose and all of that, I feel like we make it too black and white because life isn't that black and white.
That's right. Like you said, you get kind of held into a position because this is my calling. Well,
right.
The older I get, the more I realize I'm just called to be a son.
Yeah.
Okay. What I mean by that, like, I'm called to walk in his footsteps, right? I'm called to love like he did.
Mhm.
I'm called to love my wife as Christ loved the church, right? I made a decision to marry her. Now it's my turn to wash her, prepare her, and make her who she could ultimately be by being my wife. Like
Yeah.
that's my job. That's
Yeah.
my calling, right? I'm called to be a man of integrity. I'm called to you're called to be a Christian. And if you just hold to one thing, like you see bad examples of it all the time, people who felt like it was their calling to be a pastor and they're terrible at it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes we can get that skewed and we get hung up on all of the terminology. And I guess what I'm trying to ultimately kind of touch on and say is it's two sides of the same coin. Like we have this general calling where it's like, yeah, I'm called to be a son, and that's not any less than specific calling. Like that's the part that I feel like we neglect in search for like the specific Moses in the burning bush moment.
Yeah.
Not to say that there aren't Moses in the burning bush moments.
They are.
There are. God does show up. How many testimonies have we heard? How many testimonies do we have in our own life where it was like, dude, I didn't want to do that thing, but the Lord spoke to me either prophetically or through a dream or something, and I knew I had to do it, and I did it, and then God showed up and delivered. And those things are real. Not neglecting those at all or negating them in any capacity. But that's not the entirety of calling.
Yeah.
Calling is also the other side where it's like, yeah, I have a general call. I have a call to be a son. I have a call, to be a good husband, to do all of those things as well. And I feel like sometimes, especially with younger people, I know in my life when I was younger as well, we get hung up in the pursuit of this like very romanticized adventure, specific calling. I'm the hero in the story. I'm the main character, and that's not reality. And in the pursuit of that, I think that people drive themselves insane.
Yeah. Sometimes your calling in church is just to fill the need.
Yeah.
And it might not be an impressive need.
Give me an example of that.
Sometimes the church doesn't need another preacher. Sometimes the church needs somebody to reach out and call people or to, I had a calling for a whole season of my life where I took my wife and kids every Sunday afternoon and just did home visitations and hospital visitations with youth.
Yeah.
Like that, I'm not doing that today, but that was just an opportunity where God needed somebody, and I said yes.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't born to do that, but for that season, he needed a labor in that area,
Yeah.
and I was there with my kids.
And how do you differentiate between an opportunity that opened up that you shouldn't take every opportunity, obviously, right?
Yeah.
How do you differentiate between the ones you should and the ones you shouldn't?
Man, for me, it's like an obsession with it. Like honestly, like if I feel God's wanting me to do a certain thing, I can't get it out of my mind.
Same.
And I
Same.
feel like, dude, I could totally do this. I could do X, Y, and Z, and it's going to work out. And it's like, it makes no logical sense that it'd be my own carnal thought because I get nothing out of it.
Yeah.
I win zero by doing this calling, you know?
And then there are times in my life where I'm like, dude, I don't want to do that. I'm too busy. But the Lord just won't leave me alone about it.
But I'm equipped to do it.
Right.
And I know it's the right thing to do. And to not do it would be a sin.
He who knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really just that, you know? Maybe you're not called to be the youth pastor when you're a youth pastor. Maybe you're the 10th person they asked.
Right.
Like you're not the first choice. Like, hey, I was never the first choice at any ministry I served in, dude. I was always like the consolation prize, but I just happened to say yes.
Yeah.
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 And you know what? More than qualifications, more than anything, God just needs someone who's willing to step aside and say yes.
You know what I feel like we don't hear nearly as much is a phrase that we heard growing up our whole lives is God isn't looking for the able, he's looking for the available.
Yeah.
Remember hearing that, like all of your youth and stuff? And it's like, yeah, I don't necessarily have to be able to do it. I just have to say yes because God gives me the ability.
That's
and
right.
then you just do the best that you can. I feel like the greatest growth in my life has come from, or the most consistent growth, I guess I should say, or some of the most consistent growth in my life has come from this mechanism that I have implemented over and over and over in my life. You're going to chuckle because it's the same in yours, which is constantly biting off more than I could chew and then chewing it. You know what I mean? It's jumping into the deep end and pitting whatever struggle I'm going to go into, pitting it against dying. It's like, it's either this or I die. So I guess I got to figure it out. And then you figure it out.
Well, it's also like what I was talking about earlier, where we're like, hey, we just, relinquish all the duties of as a Christian to the institution of church and let them do it instead of doing it ourselves. Like, I don't have to feel bad because I give money to this and I give money to that and I attend here every week, and the ministers take care of the rest. But if it wasn't for calling and biting off more than I could chew, I would have never gotten into the kind of pinches where only God could rescue me out of. I would have never gone through hardships and trenches for other people. And that's where I learned who God is.
Yeah. People want God.
If you don't swing for the fences and do hard things in ministry, you'll never know God on that level.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the trenches with him and you realize like, hey, I simply cannot do this without you. He comes through and he shows you exactly what he's capable of, and he walks through that whole situation with you. And then and when you come out of it, it's like, man, I know you better than I've heard about you before, but now I've seen you with my own eyes.
100%.
Yeah.
It's funny because people want they want that level of God interaction on their life where God shows up in the 11th hour. Well, in order for God to show up in the 11th hour, you've got to be in the 11th hour.
Yeah.
There's the first half of the story where things go wrong in order for God to show up. But if all of the ministry that we do is stuff that we can plan and project and predict based on our efforts and our finances and our abilities, then we leave no room for God to show up.
Yeah.
Because then you're just a really good administrator.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you could take the glory and the credit for it.
Right.
And it is not to God's credit.
And completely right. One of the things that you can easily struggle with is, especially if you've calculated everything, is that you can sit there and do the right Christian thing and be like, well, it's to God's glory. But in your heart of hearts, you sit there and you go, I know secular institutions that operate the same way, and God's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
So how much of this is really God's glory?
Yeah.
In your heart of hearts, you're like, it's the God's glory because that's the Sunday school right answer. But in my heart of hearts, it's like I can sit there and think, but we really just did it. I mean, if God was there or not, we would have still done it. And it's like, no, you have to leave room for God to do things. And that's where I think like sensitivity to the Holy Spirit and God, the Holy Spirit knocking on your door, spending time with God consistently, daily, if not, several times a week, and just being sensitive to him, he will lead you into things where you go, I have no way of being able to do that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because sometimes we'll reject doing what we believe God is burdening us to do because God will go, Pete, I want you to go take on this project. And you'll look at your bank account and you'll go, I can't pay for that.
This makes no logical sense.
Yeah. Which is so ridiculous.
Yeah.
The way that we approach it. Because it's like in human form, we know better than what we just did there.
Yeah.
If your boss in your company comes to you and says, hey, I want you to go and, like let's say you're a construction guy working for a contractor, and your contractor boss comes to you and says, hey, I want you to go and pour this foundation. And you go, I don't know if I have enough money for materials in my personal bank account. No, the company pays for it. He's the one who sent you, but we try to do God's will with our resources. And then that disqualifies us from ministry because we automatically disqualify ourselves saying, I don't have the resources for that.
Also, like what I was saying by it makes God real, like seek after his kingdom and then everything you need will be added unto you.
Right.
Right. I could read that and I could try to understand it. But when I used to go to Mexico and my wife calls me at home that our car exploded and I'm sitting with my head in my hands, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm here trying to help these people, and I'm busted. I'm broken.
Right.
Like I have no money. My wife can't get to work. We're
in trouble.
Income family. We're in trouble. And I'm crying out and complaining to God, I'm here trying to be a missionary, and I'm in ruins financially. And then I get home, and all my co-laborers in the mission field get together behind my back and put together an offering. And they're like, hey, dude, there's only like 6 of us, and here's 12 grand. Go buy yourself a new car. Like, I swung for the fences.
Yeah.
And I got into trouble. But in doing all that, I saw the reality of God through all of it. So there's something to be said about it. There's something like, man, in those trenches, you read verses and you can read them all your life. But when God displays them for you in your own life, it just hits completely different,
but they can't be displayed that way just sitting in a pew hearing it from the pulpit.
No, you got to go do things that are bigger than yourself.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
And that's that I'm not able. My accounts don't match what it is that I feel you're burdening me to do. but if you'll open a door, God, I'll take the first step. And I don't know, I'm risking everything.
Yeah.
But I feel like the Christian life is one where you're constantly risking everything because you're constantly relying on Christ.
Yeah.
And he's constantly coming through.
Constantly coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah. He always does.
And he's never let me down.
Never let me down, ever. Like that's one thing I can't say about my history in ministry is that he's actually never let me down.
Yeah. And it might sound nice. People might hear that and go, I don't really know. There are times where I feel like in the moment, God, you're letting me down. Like, I'm sure in that moment, you're like, God, I'm here doing this. Why aren't you taking care of my family?
Surely I heard about my calling wrong.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there are times where in the moment, I'm like, God, I don't understand. But I know him well enough, and I've had enough experiences with God that I go, I know that I just don't understand. But this will all make sense one day.
Yeah.
And every time, always, it's like, you know what? It did work out.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that it always turns into there was all of a sudden more money at the end of it, but it did work out.
It did.
And it's fine. And what God did in that season, he did teach me some things.
Yeah.
And, maybe it wasn't, the financial breakthrough that I wanted, but it was a spiritual and an emotional one where he was able to open up some boxes in my life where I dealt with some things that I wasn't dealing with for a long time. That episode that we just did with the Heritage Project, the very first launch episode. Love that episode, man.
Fantastic.
Florin Bala, such a stud of a man. So cool.
How great to be open enough to allow God's glory to shine through your situation that's uncomfortable to share.
Right.
Yeah. Because it's one thing to live those experiences, but to be open enough and vulnerable enough, as ugly and as emotional as it is, to share it so that God could get maximum glory for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's something that people don't understand. And if you go back and you watch that episode, you'll see Florin talks about an experience that he had when he was 10 years old. And what people don't understand about men, even men don't understand about men, but especially women, we compartmentalize. It's the way that our psyche works. We put things into boxes. And we can compartmentalize different experiences, put it in a box, bury it way down. And the way that the timeline works is when you put something into a box and you bury it way down, it hits pause. It's just as real. It's just as vibrant.
Yeah.
It's whatever the experience was. It's just as powerful as it was in that moment, but you hit pause. And 40 years goes by. And the second you peek into it, it picks up right at the second where you left off. You see Florin talking about an experience he had when he was 10. And as soon as he starts talking about it, dude, he's back in that box. And it just teleports him back in time. And his son David says, man, it's as real as if as if he's there right now.
Yeah.
And that's how we are as men. We compartmentalize these things. And it's like, man, sometimes you'll go through suffering where, like, I've gone through experiences where I'm like, God, I don't understand why I'm going through this. And it's because God's bringing me into a place to where I'm going into a box that I've compartmentalized and buried way down from my childhood. And he's going, this is the only road to get back into this box so I can heal it.
Yeah.
And I'll open up that box and I'll talk about, hurts that I have and about things that I feel like, I wish I had more when I was a kid or whatever. And it'll finally come out and God will heal it. And I'll go, man, the finances were rough or the situation was rough. And that finally made me explode before you, God, and reveal what was in my heart. And God goes, finally, I have access to it. And then he heals that part of me. So there are so many different experiences that I've had, but I can confidently say, man, God's never let me down.
Yeah.
Like he's never let me down.
And what was the apex of your whole story? You finally blow up and say, God, I've had it.
Yeah.
Like you finally step out of the way.
Yeah. And you're finally having a conversation with God where he's like, I've been waiting to talk to you about this.
Yeah.
Good. Let it all out. Vent.
Yeah.
Tell me the truth.
Yeah.
And then finally you're sitting there talking to God and then you surrender.
Yeah.
And it's that getting out of your own way, going, I don't know what else to do, God. It's in your hands. Jesus, take the wheel. Whatever. I guess I'll die, And God's like, no, I got this. And you're like, oh, I'm dumb.
Yeah, I was just waiting for this point.
Yeah.
Oh, finally, you realized it. Yeah, you're going to die. It's by my grace that you won't.
Yeah. And then you're just like, oh, okay, you're good. I'm dumb. I'm so thankful for you. And it's such a good, refreshing revelation that helps in growth. But you will never get that sitting in the pews being comfortable.
Never. Something I did realize that as I got older is he's just always right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like whatever argument or gripe I have with my life, I realize that I am wrong.
Yeah.
I go into all my conversations knowing that, hey, dude, I know you're right.
Yeah.
Just help me to see how you're right. Because I know for sure this is not going right and it's my fault.
Yeah. And it's not like like you're saying it tongue in cheek. No, you're saying it practically.
I'm saying it just like I'm telling you right now.
And that's the truth of it, where it's so liberating to realize, hey, God, just because I don't understand it doesn't mean that you're wrong.
Yeah.
You're right. And if it seems wrong to me, it's just revealing that I'm misunderstanding something.
Yeah.
Please help me see.
Because surely you're not wrong.
Surely you're not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's so powerful. How would you define church, Pete? Because we talk about church a lot, man. You and me in our what conversations.
The older I get, the more I realize that we're the church and not the institution.
Yeah.
But that doesn't negate the importance of the institution.
100%.
Yeah. But we're the church.
Yeah.
We're the ones responsible for showing Christ to the outside world outside of the church.
Right.
We're the church.
There is no mediator of an institution of the church between God and mankind. There, except for the mediator of Christ Jesus. That's what Scripture says. And I really wish in the English language we had two different words. You know how like love in Greek has three different types of love, right? Phileo and agape and eros, right?
Yeah.
The three different types of three different words to describe three different types of love. In English, I really wish we had different words to separate the word church from the institution and the word church from the body of believers.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same thing.
Mm-mm.
And all throughout Scripture where it talks about the church, it's not talking about the institution. It is talking about the body of believers.
Yeah.
And so what's important to understand is we love the institution of the church. We love the body of believers, not anti that. But the institution of the church can never, like any other thing, take the place of Jesus.
Yeah.
You know, and like, for example, one place where we make that mistake is we think, well, you go to church and that's where you become Christian because the church makes Christians. The church does not make Christians. That is a heresy. It is Christ who makes Christians. It is Christians who make the church.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand the difference in what creates what, because if we don't, then we end up pledging our allegiance to an institution and not to Jesus.
Yeah.
And I think that it's so important for people to understand that the church exists on three levels, right? The individual, you're the church, I'm the church. The local body of believers, right? The community that we get together with at the church, right? At the institution, and then the global church. And so whenever I'm preaching a sermon from the pulpit, I'm helping grow the church. Yeah. Whenever I'm praying for missionaries in another country, right? Whenever we're doing that, we're helping grow the church. Whenever I'm studying the Bible, I'm the church. Yeah. I'm growing the church. And I feel like we get stuck in this ministry mindset where it's like ministry is preaching in the church and that's where I'm growing the church. And it's like, no, reading the Bible is ministering to the church.
Also, it's like a huge trap. Like you can get so wrapped up in the institution of church that you're no longer an effective Christian, really.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
Because you can get so wrapped up in services and programme and discipline and
politics,
dress codes and politics, and this guy's pieing for a position and that guy and this family's threatening to leave, and like you get so wrapped up with it. Next thing you know, a decade has gone by and the church as an institution hasn't really done anything to win the lost.
Right.
It's just made peace amongst its own congregation, raised enough money for some remodeling, and that's it.
Yeah, which brings me to my next question. Where do we lose the most ground as Christians? It's there.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get caught up in playing church in, the
and it's not that it's not important.
No, the church institution is the most effective tool that God has used in bringing the gospel to the world.
Yeah.
So sometimes people have these arguments with us, these debates where they have an either-or mentality. Either the church is perfect the way that it is, or you're completely against the institution. And it's like, no, I'm not in either of those. I don't think that the institution of the church is perfect. I also am not against the institution of the church.
Yeah.
I think that it is a absolutely wonderful, necessary tool, as long as it doesn't take the seat of Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. And as long as you don't get lost in it.
Yeah.
Because you can get so lost in church and the way you do church and the politics of church that you've become completely ineffective for any of your calling.
Right.
Like all you're worried about is like, how am I going to present this to the board? How are they going to receive it? How can I word this to where I can get some funding for X, Y, and Z?
Right.
And at the end of the day, the people who are in a place of affliction, who are calling out to God, God's not coming and miraculously helping them. He's speaking to you and you're going and helping them.
Right. You're the hands and the feet.
You're the hands and the feet. And it's often outside the institution of the church.
Yeah. If the question that I wrote down was, how do we lose the most ground, or where do we lose the most ground? It's in the infighting in our churches.
Yeah.
And it's so silly because it's like, you know what, if I can just get, my kid to be the director of the choir, if I can just get this, we're a pretty power family. I had a lot of kids, and now they're all getting older, and now I'm the father of like 8 families.
Yeah.
Now we have a lot of influence in the church, and so we're going to vote, and we're going to, try to put pressure. If I could just get these things done, then when I'm in control, then we could start ministering to the outside world. Well, that's what everybody else is thinking. And then 30 years goes by.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, man, that's the wrong mentality.
Yeah. And next thing you know, you've created this juggernaut of a institution that demands all the resources just to function.
Yeah.
I was doing some remodeling at a church, and I was like, dude, can we just have some more time on this? I was like, no, dude. Like, if we miss 2 services, we can't financially cut the mustard anymore. Like,
right.
We're under. It's like, well, how are you doing anything outside of the church if everything the church produces is just to maintain the church?
Yeah.
Like, how are you doing anything else?
So I grew up with chickens, and I have chickens now. And there's this chicken breed that I think about sometimes. It's called, well, it doesn't really matter, but they're the white ones that you see in every single store.
Yeah.
Are
they called pellets? Something like that?
Pullets are teenager chickens. Yeah. There's a specific, I can't think of it.
Oh, that's all I had. Sorry.
Yeah. It's a Cornish cross hen.
Okay.
That's the type of breed of chicken. I remembered. So there's these chickens that they're the same chickens that you see at foster farms and everywhere else. And what they do is they will park themselves in front of the food, and they're genetically bred. They're not modified, but they're genetically bred to be this species that puts on so much meat onto the chicken, so much water weight, so much meat. It doesn't taste great, but it's every chicken that you see in the store. And you get a lot of pound for return, but they end up looking like a basketball by the time they're ready to be harvested. So they will park themselves in front of food, and they live their whole life there. They can't, under their own weight, walk around anymore. They can't forage. They can't, their own bones break under their own weight. Like, their legs will break because they're so heavy. But as far as the numbers go, the production, money on return, the amount of money that you spend on feed versus the amount of meat that you get out of every chicken. Well, the chicken has been so fed that it becomes so heavy underneath its own weight that it's ineffective at being a chicken.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it sometimes, where our institutions will get so big that the weight of just running the institution becomes such a drain on resources, like you were saying, that in order for it to exist, it just needs to spend all of its own resources maintaining itself. And it becomes incredibly ineffective.
Yeah.
You see this with bureaucracies all the time. You see it with big companies, hospitals. Your wife works for a hospital. My wife works for a hospital. There's so much bureaucracy. There's so many administrators that it's like, man, most of our money is going into just maintaining our existence, but we're not doing any more good.
Yeah.
And that's what happens sometimes, the bureaucracy.
Yeah. I think I've also been genetically modified to just eat, dude. I was like, the whole time you're saying it, it's like, dude, I think the government did that to me. I think they did that to me, Eddie.
I've been genetically bred for such a time as this.
Yeah, dude. I feel like I'm breaking under the weight of my own self. But no, yeah, dude. The older I get, the more I look at that same thing. It's like, we've built such a thing about church, and we have allowed life to get so easy in doing it that we've allowed our own feelings and emotions to take control over everything.
Right.
Like our experiences and how we feel about things, and hurts that come from allowing ourselves to be in our feelings. You know?
Yeah.
When you talk to, like, hey, I feel like this should be this way. I feel like this should, I feel like we should change worship up because I'm not enjoying it enough. And I need to go to a church where I really feel like I enjoy the worship set. And then Francis Chan says it so beautifully. He's like, since when do you have to enjoy worship? It's for God.
Yeah.
What about your preference on instruments and soloists and song selection? What does that have to do with any of it? It's not for you. It's for him. You're worshiping God. Like,
it's so perfect.
Worshiping God correctly, the byproduct of it is that you feel his tangible presence, and that's the benefit of it. But nowhere does it say that your opinion about it or your preference means anything.
Like, I'm going to sing a song for you, but I want to like it.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, hey, this is a really old song. Can we change it up a little bit? Or the older people are like, hey, can we make it old again? I'm leaving the church because they neglect the hymnals,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like such a silly notion. It's like, dude, this is for God. We're singing in unison. We're, as a body, we're collectively worshiping him.
Right.
It's for him.
Now, if the music needs to be how you want it, then who exactly are you singing for? Let me rephrase. Who exactly are you worshiping?
Yeah, you've missed the whole point.
Yeah.
And churches split over this.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, hey, why'd that church split? Well, they went from one communion cup to little cups.
Dude, how insane
How
is it?
nuts is what I'm telling you right
Yeah.
now. We left that church because they started using single serve cups.
Yeah.
Like, the idea is we're coming together in remembrance of him.
Right. Not in that case.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I want to remember him how I want to remember him. And it's like, dude, how do you not understand that church isn't about you?
I think it comes from our lives being too easy.
Yeah. It's a good
Like
point.
our lives are so easy that we have time to worry about our feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm
We have time to get depressed.
yeah.
Think about that.
No, it's completely true.
Yeah. I remember, dude, I spent a lot of time in Africa.
Yep.
And after all my time in Africa, I only heard of one single person ever taking their own lives. Like they had enough time to pause and lament about their own feelings and take their own lives. I was in Hamona Bay and I was riding back in the back of a pickup truck, and Paul, the African guy, my friends, and riding the back with me, he gets a phone call. It's like, hey, this kid I grew up with, his mom just hung herself on the front of her little shack where she lives. And it was like so weird that, you know, normally you're just striving so hard to preserve life and to live that you're just functioning and going forward and doing. But like in the West, like we worry about things like depression because
Right.
life is really good. dude.
There was a huge statistical study that was done in Africa, and they don't struggle with mental disorders or depression.
No.
And it's like when you're struggling to survive, you have purpose.
Yeah.
You know, and the purpose is I need to make enough and do enough. But once you're comfortable with everything, it's like, well, okay, why do I exist?
Yeah.
And that, you know, finding
How do I
meaning.
feel about this?
Yeah. Finding meaning and purpose and value, that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But as Christians, it's like we don't understand how much our Christianity is about us. Because as Christians, there's plenty of purpose. If you understand that the world, and you really believe that God is real, that the world is lost in sin, that hell is real, that in eternity in hell is where everybody's naturally headed to because of the
Just by
Adamic
being
sin.
born.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that it is our role to try to rescue people by
Yeah.
telling them the gospel,
Yeah.
the good news. That's enough purpose to last me 1,000 lifetimes.
Yeah.
But the question is do we really believe it? Or do we just say that we believe it?
Yeah. Like Paul allowed it to put him in such a situation where he says to live is Christ and to die is gain. Like I've occupied myself with so much stuff besides myself that I'd much rather die.
Right.
But if I'm going to live,
I'm going to live for Jesus.
I'm going to live for Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because next thing you know, you have Christians like, I don't know how I feel about that part of the Bible.
Yeah. 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 And that's where I think that the right approach is exactly what you were saying earlier, which is like, if I don't agree with something in Scripture, it's not Scripture that's wrong.
It's me that's wrong.
It's me.
I need to
Like,
conform.
how much arrogance do I have to have? Like,
Yeah.
again, Francis Chan, he goes, how arrogant of a phrase is it whenever we say, I wouldn't believe in a God who fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Like, since where do I get off thinking that my sense of right and wrong and morality is more developed than God's? Like,
Yeah.
God's needs to be underneath mine. Like,
Yeah.
God needs to fit into what I think is right and wrong. Where do I get off?
Yeah.
But there's
I
such
have
an
no
arrogance. Yeah, none at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember a lady had said to me in a youth ministry, she goes, I love the Bible and something, and everything that's written so far. She goes, but I got a real bone to pick with Paul about some of the things that he wrote about women, And I was like, dude, do you not understand that it was inspired by the Holy Spirit?
Yeah.
Do you not understand that if I ever have a bone to pick about anything in Scripture, either one, I'm not understanding something correctly.
Yeah.
That happens, right? Or two, I'm probably wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm not understanding something correctly because I probably have a wrong view of it.
Yeah.
So let me submit myself to Scripture. That needs to be above me, not the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do we? Because we're talking about like losing ground, right? As Christians becoming ineffective. The devil's most fantastic tactic, and I don't say fantastic in a good way, but I mean incredibly successful tactic, to immobilize the church is to keep us infighting one another.
Yeah.
Because it's like if the enemy wants to paralyze me in fear and in doubt, he's immobilized me. But if I can fight you, he's immobilized both of us. And then I'm going to go tell all my friends. You're going to tell all of your friends. Now he's immobilized the whole entire church.
Yeah.
It's like, well, how do you know that your church, if it's stuck or not? Well, let me ask you this. Does your church bring people in to salvation? Does your church build people up? And does your church send people out?
Right.
If your church is a place that brings people in, the institution, does it bring new bodies of believers into the body, right? Does it raise them in discipleship? Does it send them out? And if it does this effectively, then you're a healthy church. Are you a growing church?
Yeah.
I don't mean numbers. I mean in health, which was also reflected in numbers as well, I guess. I get that. But secondly, if it is doing these things, that's great. If it's not doing these things, let me ask two more questions. One, how do we get stuck as people in a church? How do we get stuck in these stupid systems of fighting one another? Why does that happen, in your opinion? And then secondly, how do we get out of it if we are stuck in it?
Man, that's a tough one. We get stuck because we're creatures of comfort.
Yeah.
And my family all goes here. My friends will go here. I'm still useful in some capacity here. I'm allowed to serve here. Sometimes I've heard different people's like, dude, this is where all my business is. Like all my clients go to this church.
Right. I've heard that. Yeah.
Like we've heard that multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
At my age now, what I've come to realize is I'm not called to change the church, but I'm called to change me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't have control over the institution, but I have control over myself, my wife, and my kids.
And you're not responsible for the institution.
I'm not.
You are for you, your wife, and your kids.
Yeah. Like you get stuck in churches and you start squinting at things that you know are true biblical commands. And then you just get stuck there because it's the place to go. It's the place to be.
It's where you know people.
It's where you know people.
Yeah.
You know, they had a good basket when you went in there, like your welcoming basket had a cookie in it. You know, it had a free coffee in the lounge.
Yeah. It's comfortable. It's convenient, like you were saying.
Yeah.
It's
at least for me in my life, I started looking at like, I could have an opinion on things and not an answer for everything.
right.
All right. Like I have an opinion on these things. I don't have the answer to all these questions.
Yeah. I don't know what's right, but I know what's wrong.
But I know what's wrong.
And that's okay.
And that's okay, dude. So I started filtering things like, hey, dude, what you were talking about, Paul, is that something that I hold true? Yeah. Am I going to go change all the churches? No.
Right.
But it's just going to be a fact in my life, and I'm going to follow a church that follows that.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If a pastor's acting bad, but it's okay, you know, he's the one we have and blah, 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 and he's doing shady stuff, leave.
Yeah. It's funny the things we'll leave a church for and the things we won't.
Yeah.
You know?
It's like Stockholm Syndrome.
Yeah.
Like we're just used to getting abused, so we're just going to hang around here. And churches don't always die either. They'll stick around at like that 20 to 100 person mark, and they'll just dredge on for decades, sucking your resources in your life.
It's true. That does exist a lot.
But you just have to like look at it like, hey, this is what the Bible says the church should look like. And if it's not doing that and God hasn't given me a place to change these things, I don't think I need to be there.
Right.
Like I'm going to leave. I'm going to find somewhere else that meets this criteria.
Yeah. Where we get stuck, I think sometimes as a whole church in the infighting or in the inward focus is, I think it has a lot to do with the waters that we swim in and the culture that we're used to.
Yeah.
But I think what, the way that we break free, right, is, are you going to church to have a relationship with Jesus, or are you going to church because you have a relationship with Jesus?
Yeah.
Like, me and you talk about this a lot, Pete, where it's like, man, what does my relationship look like with Jesus if you are, for example, if you're to take away Sunday church, like during COVID, you can't go to church anymore. You can't be at the, do you still have a relationship with Jesus? And it's like, if the entirety of your relationship with Christ is attending church on Sundays, then I would argue, I'm not really sure you have one.
Yeah.
Like, are you actually praying? Do you actually talk to him? Do you take risks? Do you sacrifice things in your life? The way that you treat your wife and your kids and the people around you, does it flow out of your relationship with Jesus? Are you praying about those things? And man, it's so funny because I feel like people get hung up on this stupid, simple idea where they're like, yeah, I'm praying about it. And I'll ask them, I'll go, hey, be really honest with me. Are you actually verbalizing out loud, Father, and then actually praying about it? Or do you just mean that you're like, thinking about it deeply and hoping that God will intervene? And most times it'll be the second one. And I'm like, no, when you pray about something, you have to actually sit there and talk to God about it. I'm not saying it has to be verbal. It could be in your head. That's fine. But you've got to bring it up and say, God, God, I'm asking God that you would please bless Domni and Pete and Pete Jr. and Annie and Isaac and be with their family and encourage them and help them have a wonderful day. I've actually prayed about it now. Until now, I haven't prayed about that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And in this,
But you had thoughts about it.
I had thoughts about it.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, dude, are you actually praying? That's the question. And I feel like so many people get up to the point of, man, I should pray about this, but then they never do it.
Yeah.
So then my curiosity is like, okay, are we actively pursuing a real relationship with Jesus? Because I think that's what breaks, like for example, well, you know, like this is I think a good illustration of it. The illustration that you gave about Francis Chan, where people are like, well, you know, I would really like it if it was this song, and somebody goes, well, I would really like it if we had this style of worship, and then somebody goes up on stage, you know, at the pulpit and says, hey, brother, the worship isn't about you, it's about Christ.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes a lot of times, where people will go, wait, you're right. And I'm going to let go. I don't care if it's hymnals. I just want to be sincere before the Lord.
Yeah.
So it's a redirecting. And that's where like pulpit ministry really helps, is just that clarity, that revelation that comes with it. And I think focusing on the main thing helps us break free of a natural habit that gets formed out of our own human flesh to be comfortable and to make it about me.
Yeah.
And that's where that shift needs to happen. And I think a lot of times our pastors are afraid to preach certain things because it might upset people. But it's that denial of self. Like it all comes full circle.
Full circle from the beginning.
Yep.
Being selfless. The other thing is too is like we make exceptions.
Yes.
Okay, we make exceptions. Like I knew 1 Timothy 5:8 existed when I was neglecting my family, but I thought I'm the exception to this rule because church is going to fail without me.
Right.
I was never exempt from that rule.
Nope.
Okay. Your pastor being a man above reproach and being a man of good character, he's not exempt from that.
Right.
Like if you have a pastor and he doesn't have a good character,
that verse is still true.
it's still true.
Yeah.
Like no one's exempt from any of these qualifications and rules. Like, and if that's going on, like I don't think you have to be there, man. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. And you know, you have to make some decisions. And I think a lot of times we're pressured into decisions by culture.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, well, what are people going to say? Dude, what's God going to say?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, like it might be a hard right decision, but you make that hard right decision. If not, you're going to have some regrets.
That and if you can't make the change that you feel convicted about in your own church, you have the power to make that change in yourself.
Yeah, that's great.
That do it in yourself. Do it in your own home. Like,
Yeah.
you know, like all these liberals are talking about we need to give more money to X, Y, and Z. Is like, dude, no one's stopping you from doing it right now.
Yeah, in your own house.
Tax the rich, take everybody's money, give it to poor people. It's like, dude, just go do it voluntarily.
No, I want to
Right
give you
now.
your money to the poor
Yeah.
people.
It's like, same thing with church though.
Yes.
Like the church needs to do X, Y, and Z. Is like, you know what, dude?
Go do it.
Go do it.
Yeah.
You do it. Sounds great. It's a great idea. It's in the Bible. Do it.
Yeah.
You know?
No, but it's such a well illustrated point. We always want to tithe to God. We always want to give to God. We always want to give financially out of money we don't have.
Yeah.
God, if you just help me make more money, I would give more to the poor. How many times have you heard of that prayer? God, if you give me this job, I'll give 20%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, why are you promising God out of money you don't even have yet?
Right.
You know, but we do the same thing with time, you know, and we do the same thing with everything else where it's like, you know what? I want the church to develop a ministry for the lost. Just go tell people about Jesus.
Obviously, you're burdened on it.
Yes, great.
Go do it. But no, brother, I judge other people on their actions, but only myself on my intentions.
That's right.
Or they're
true.
in action.
Yeah.
You know?
No, it's true. It's like, well, no, I want it to be this way. And it's like, you don't get to decide that.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I want to have influence over places that God never gave me to be my responsibility, while neglecting the influence that God has given me in a place where I am responsible for.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, just be some of the best advice that I learned when I was young and I had given to many young people over the years is, dude, just do the best that you can with what you have where you are.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Just do the best that you can with what you have where you are. And then what'll happen is the best that you can will only get better. What you have will only be more, and where you are will only be further.
Yeah.
That's the reality. Everybody wants to influence the comitet. And it's like, dude, just be faithful in the territory God gave you.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do.
Hey, you imagine if you had 1,000 people like that under one roof?
Yeah.
You imagine if that was the church?
Man.
Man. like it would be successful.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
Sky's the limit.
You know, like you're saying, is like, how come their church doesn't have an outreach? Like, there's a huge church in town here who has a shower trailer. One guy who has gone through rehab that I know personally, he's a friend of mine. I hire him to do certain jobs. He just decided to raise his own finances alongside of the church and just take that trailer out and wash homeless people's clothes and give them showers and feed them. Like the church didn't have to raise anything to do it. He just did it on his own.
It didn't have to go through like 6 comité meetings, 9 budget committee meetings, and an approval where we'll give you 20%, but you have to raise the other 80.
Yeah.
Yeah. Craig Rochelle had this really great quote.
And I'm not saying to not be under accountability. Be under accountability.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. But sometimes we can get so bloated.
Yeah.
Craig Rochelle has this great quote that I don't know where he got it from or if he came up with it, but he says, policy, like church policy, all it is organizational scar tissue. You know, so that was great. It's like, yeah, somebody got cut somewhere, so we have to create a policy for it, and that's the scar tissue. You know, somebody got hurt, so now we made a new rule. It's so healthy and correct and biblical to be underneath the church covering.
Yeah.
We're not against that at all. You know what it's like doing missionary work in other countries when you have a whole church praying for you,
Yeah.
and when you don't.
Yeah. I know both sides of the coin.
It makes a world of difference. I know what it's like before I had a prayer team and after I mobilized a prayer team that I go, hey, I'm going on this weekend trip. Please pray for me. It's a world of difference.
Yeah.
Like we need the local body of believers, and the institution helps streamline the ministry. But the institution, like every other aspect of our lives, can never take the place of Jesus.
Yeah.
It has to be something that brings us into the presence of Jesus. If not, it becomes the golden calf.
But also like swinging for the fences and just being obedient and filling the needs yourself, you'll find exactly what you were looking for under your own strengths.
Yeah.
Like you might want someone to disciple you and you don't have anybody, and then you'll do a ministry like I do. And next thing you know, there's 65-year-old men in that ministry who are what I want to be like.
Yeah.
And, you know, being like, you know, I've never had anyone to disciple me. I don't have any mentors. And then it's like, I'll just do ministry. And I do ministry. I end up running face into older men who exemplify Christ in the most excellent way.
Yeah.
And next thing you know is I'm working for a week at a time, shoulder to shoulder with them, and they're pouring into me. Like sometimes God just wants you to make that step. Man.
Yeah.
And based on your faithfulness, it's like, okay, cool, dude. I was waiting for you to do this because I had all these ordained steps ahead of you that you didn't even know about.
Right.
There was going to be multiple people who are going to pour into your life once you just said yes.
And you're spot on. The silliness of it is like that Office quote where we go, you know, God, I want you to lead me, but I want you to lead me how I want to be led.
When I want to be led.
Yeah, and when I want to be. Like, it's so obnoxious because it's like, well, I want to be a youth leader, you know, and God, I want you to lead me, but this is the kind of youth leader that I want to be, and this is how I want the journey to go. And it's like, well, are you being led, or are you trying to lead God and leading you?
Yeah.
Like, that's just ridiculous.
It's almost like when he said, lose your life and you'll find it.
Yep.
He was telling the truth.
Weird.
How about that?
Yeah, go figure. Man, Pete, it's been really good, man, just reminiscing and going over a lot of our life's experiences and stuff. And I appreciate, you know, just the transparency and the friendship that we've built over 2 decades now. And looking forward to the next 2 decades, man.
Absolutely.
Been a good time.
Thank you for having me on again.
It's always a joy, man, being together. And yeah, thanks for our listeners for checking in with us. And yeah, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks and God bless.